Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. I got to believe it was over 30 years ago now. It's hard to say that. Over 30 years ago now, the film JFK came out.
That's right.
Stone. It was all the rage that summer. I think I even got swept up in it for a little bit. But again, I wasn't alive when the actual event happened. I was just a twinkle in my parents' eye at that point. And I think history has a way of being twisted by Hollywood, and we all get enamored with movies. I think right now we're all being enamored with the Menendez series on Netflix. And we have to remember to keep things in perspective. That's one of the things about some of these special features on that get kind of trudged out by Hollywood and thrown at us, that there is such a thing as history. We have to keep things in perspective, that sometimes things are put out for entertainment. One of the things about entertainment is that as things get twisted, is certain people get put to the forefront. And when they get put to the forefront, their roles in history are heightened and hyperbole is thrown out there. And their role in history is very much exaggerated. One of those roles in JFK that was exaggerated was Jim Garrison. My guest today, Fred Litwin, has put on an excellent book. And he's one of those people who started out as a JFK conspiracy freak. He calls himself that in his first book. I was a teenage JFK conspiracy freak, but has come to the other side, where you could say he is a JFK truther. Now he is a JFK realist, and will tell you he believes the Warren Commission. And he's quickly become one of my favorite guests here on True Crime Tuesday. He has a brand new book out there, a great book. I just got finished reading this weekend. A Heritage of Nonsense, Jim Garrison's Tales of Mystery and Imagination. And I highly recommend you guys read this book. Let me remind you a little bit about our guest today. A Heritage of Nonsense is Fred Litwin's fifth book. It's a wonderful book. In 2023, he published Oliver Stone's film flam, The Demagogue of Dealey Plaza, if you remember, Fred, from that visit with us, which debunked the director's documentary series, JFK Destiny Betrayed, which was a little bit of a film that he came out with to back up JFK. In 2020, he published On the Trail of Delusion, Jim Garrison, The Great Accuser, which chronicled Garrison's persecution of Clay Shaw. In 2018, Fred published I Was a Teenage JFK Conspiracy Freak, detailing his journey from believing in a JFK assassination conspiracy at 18 to slowly moving to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin. Fred's first book, Conservative Confidential, Inside the Fabulous Blue Tent, was a memoir about his move from left-wing anti-nuclear activist to Conservative Party campaigner. Fred lives in Ottawa, Canada, with his partner, Andrew. Let's welcome him back to the program. Welcome back, Fred, to True Crime.
Great. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, my friend. This book, I tell you, there's some stuff in here. Boy, you want to talk about eye-openers. Things that, you know, when you look at the reality of history, Fred, it really opens up the mind, opens up the senses, and you go, I can't believe that someone who's a district attorney in New Orleans actually got away with running around the country and doing some of the stuff.
It's quite amazing. I mean, Jim Garrison was the district attorney of New Orleans for 10 years, from like 62 to 72, and he left a path of destruction in his wake as he basically bamboozled the American population with these incredible stories of conspiracy.
Well, let me ask you the first question here, and that is, okay, so you've got a local municipality, Fred, that you should be busy enough dealing with. And mind you, the only tie to the JFK assassination that I can think of is the notorious mafioso that supposedly might have had a small tie, if you're really believing conspiracy theories. That was Marcello, right?
It was Marcello, but I think the big thing for Garrison was that Oswald lived in New Orleans for 5 months
Okay.
prior to moving to Dallas at the end of September '63. So, to Garrison's mind, maybe the incubator of the conspiracy might have been in New Orleans.
Ah, okay. So that's why he's so hot on the trail of this thing. But man, I mean, there's really not a reason for him to be so hot to trot on this thing for his entire reign of his, or I shouldn't say reign, but his entire appointment as DA.
Yeah, and it wasn't his entire appointment. I think that, when Garrison took office, he started to go after his political opponents. So he went after the judges, he went after the police, he went after the legislature, and in every one of these battles, Garrison won. He got massive headlines, he beat these people up, he emerged the victor, and I think by the fall of '66, he was a bit bored. I think he found it boring being district attorney. He had won all these battles, and then all of a sudden, all those JFK books started coming out. Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane, Whitewash by Harold Weisberg, and he started reading these books and said, "Oh, I should reopen this investigation here in New Orleans." And he just went down the rabbit hole.
But boredom is one thing, but what does it do to get you reelected? That's the thing. I mean,
Well,
so
I think he generated a lot of headlines and people found him entertaining in New Orleans. I mean, every time you open the newspaper, he would have some outrageous statement. And so I think people like that.
there's two sides to every story here, Fred, and there's a double-edged sword, and that is, an outrageous statement is one thing, but when you start to use taxpayer dollars and you start to chase some of these stories, and they end up going nowhere. Well,
Yeah, and in fact, it was worse than that because Garrison used the powers of his office to go after all sorts of people, and one of his standard ploys was to call you. He had the power to haul you before the grand jury with a subpoena. You would testify, and then he would indict you for perjury, and that was a felony offense, and that would cause you to get a lawyer. You would have trouble getting bank loans or mortgage, and then right before the trial, he would drop the charges.
oh my gosh.
And so he did that a lot, and that was a way of scaring people and cajoling people to sort of say certain things, be an informant, tell me what I want to know.
Well, and to me, yeah, I mean, back in that day, I suppose you had a little more freedom to do that. If you did that today, I mean,
Yeah,
you wouldn't last one term.
no, you couldn't get away with that today, but back then he had a lot of power. And by the way, he could indict anybody for a non-capital crime just by signing a piece of paper. He didn't even have to go to the grand jury. He could just indict you on the spot.
Again, that blows my mind. I can't imagine in this day and age. I might keep in mind we're talking about a time in the '60s and '70s where you play a little more fast, a little more loose with things. But I can't imagine a local district attorney. I mean, even someone like, say, here in Minneapolis, where I'm at, um, saying, well, because someone has a tie to, well, let's make it modern day. Yeah, let's say someone went after President Biden. Okay. Um, I, I can't imagine if there were somebody tied locally here, even through some thread, saying, well, because they had a 5-month stay here, that Keith Ellison, that's a perfect example. Keith Ellison would say, okay, well, we're going to go after him. They would have his head on a platter. I mean, the media would go nuts.
And the other thing, which was even worse back in 1967, there was no discovery in Louisiana courts. So when Garrison took Clay Shaw to trial, Clay Shaw's attorneys did not get a copy of Garrison's reports on the case. And so they went into court and they said, we're going to be surprised because all of a sudden a witness will come forward. We have no idea what they're going to say, what they're going to testify. You cannot prepare for that. And so you're always ending up with these surprises in court.
Well, and some of and we'll get to it here as far as some of the outrageous ends to which Garrison went to, and even to different countries. I mean, which boggles my mind, to get evidence to a case that has absolutely nothing to do with New Orleans. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing to keep in mind here is that none of this has anything to do with New Orleans. That the thing to keep in perspective with this entire book, and as I'm reading this book, which by the way, a wonderful book, um, is that none of it has anything to do a lick to do with New Orleans as you're reading it. I just it I shake my head, and you're talking about everything from a former soldier who's claiming that he's had ties to the CIA to other countries to who's got obvious mental deficiencies, to to a possible plot with the former French intelligence that may be in the Soviets' pockets to I mean stuff like that, and you're like, what does this have to do with New Orleans? You're like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Yeah, and in fact, one of the stories in my earlier book was after David Ferry died. David Ferry was one of his suspects who really had nothing to do with anything, but he died right after Garrison's investigation started. And the other district attorneys in Garrison's office went to Garrison and said, your suspect has died. You could now drop the case. You could be a hero, drop the case, go on with your life, And he said, are you kidding? I'm going to solve the crime of the century.
But how? Okay, so Fred, let's just go down this rabbit hole for a second.
Yeah.
How? Your suspect is dead, right? So
Yeah.
what is there to solve?
Well, and that's why he ended up manufacturing evidence. He had nothing, and nothing was coming in. His investigation was going nowhere. So he actually ended up manufacturing evidence against Clay Shaw and took him to trial. It's a very, very sad story.
Hmm. So let's rewind a little bit here because there's a couple different places where Garrison needs to chase. So one of the theories I find absolutely fascinating is he starts to chase down a couple different avenues. I want to start with one of the most basic ones first. There's a theory out there that has to do with two Oswalds. I want to start with this one first because I find this one fascinating, right? The two
Yep.
Oswald theory. Um, the fact that there's two Oswalds and he starts to look into, and we'll talk a little bit about Clay Shaw as well and David Ferry and we'll get to that in a moment because there's also an interesting person connected to all of them, Clay Shaw and Ferry and them. But I want to start with the most basic one, two Oswalds, which I just find funny. There's two Oswalds. And obviously, this has been cooked up since 1961. The CIA has been after Kennedy since he stepped in office. By
Yeah.
gosh, Garrison's going to crack this one. Why is this the most faulty of them all?
Well, the two, I mean, people, like any high profile case, after the assassination, lots of people were calling up the FBI and the Warren Commission saying, well, I saw Lee Harvey Oswald. He was even seen in Montreal, where I grew up. Not surprising, this happens all the time. You got these false reports. The problem here is you have these conspiracy theorists who, they can't accept that there's a false report. If somebody says he was in North Dakota, well, if he wasn't in North Dakota, then what could it be? It could only be a second Oswald. And so, this theory of a second Oswald running around to make the real Oswald look guilty because he had to be innocent. And so in my book, the most bizarre case of Oswald impersonation was a truck dealership where somebody walked in January 1961, right on the same day that Kennedy was being inaugurated. They wanted to buy trucks for the anti-Castro cause. And they got a quote for 10 trucks. And on the quote was this guy, Joseph Moore, who supposedly was the guy who went to the dealership. And right above his name is the name Oswald. And after the assassination, the salesman remembered the name and he got out the form and he called the FBI and he said, I don't remember who this person was, but I wrote the guy's name down as Oswald. And of course, to conspiracy theorists, this could only mean that somebody back in 1961 was impersonating Lee Harvey Oswald, who was then, of course, in the Soviet Union. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you impersonate Oswald on the day of Kennedy's inauguration, and he's not even there? He's in the Soviet Union. You don't even know when he's coming back.
Right.
I mean, it made no sense. I mean, in fact, this was a a story that I really didn't have any much interest in because it was so stupid,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. And in fact, in my book, I solve it. I actually find out who exactly came to the truck dealership, and it's thanks to Google. I was actually just doing a Google search of Bolton Ford, which was the dealership, and Lee Harvey Oswald, and the solution popped up in front of me on Google, and it was absolutely, I was quite flabbergasted to see this. I don't know if I want to give it away, but it's in my
No,
book, and
you
it's a
don't have to.
it's a pretty easy, and I think what's interesting to me is it really tells me as more and more documents are digitized, I really think that other little mysteries of the assassination, other little questions we all have, we'll find more answers because of the digitization of documents, and we'll be able to actually link more things up that would sort of explain past anomalies or little mysteries here and there. And this is a good example of it.
Yeah. Again, I encourage people to go to the book because it is so incredibly simple.
Yeah,
It really is a simple solution. And just the thought that, and you even come up with the solution of why the CIA, you say, well, the CIA built a profile for Kennedy, right? In 1961. Well, there's a reason why. And you explain that in the book as well. And it's such a simple solution. I
yeah,
mean,
and I find that all the time. Conspiracy theorists will here's a big mystery. How do you explain this? And you look in, you say, well, actually, this is kind of easy to explain. And here's an answer that you should come up with yourself, but you don't because you don't really want to know the truth.
right, right, exactly. And okay, so I want to talk about the conspiratorial mind before we move on here, Fred. Why is it when we get something like this, when we get the death of a president, especially one that was as beloved as Kennedy? I mean, maybe not at the time. You have to look at the temperature of the country. And I mean,
Yeah.
there was a significant undercurrent that did not like Kennedy. There was a current that did like it. We tend to romanticize it because there's Camelot and whatnot, and you tend to have it more romanticized since he's gone. Yeah, right. But there was a significant groundswell that didn't like Kennedy. Okay, at that
Yep.
particular time. So you you have to say to yourself, so why is it that we in the conspiratorial mindset, why is it that we say to ourselves, why is it so easy to take these things and blow it out of proportion? Why is it that we want to take all these little details that are pretty much status quo, and why do we want to blow it out of proportion and say, well, look at this. Why did they do this over there? Why did they do this over here? Of course, we're going to take all these little things and pull them out of the air and make a whole lot of something out of nothing.
Yeah, and I think this part of the answer lies in the fact that this is the Rosetta Stone of conspiracy theories, and it allows you to give a lot more meaning to JFK's life. I mean, to be killed by a 24-year-old communist sort of idiot like Oswald doesn't give any meaning to JFK's life. But if you can weave a conspiracy story, oh, Kennedy was going to change foreign policy, he was going to get out of Vietnam, he was going to lead us to a world of peace, and he had to be killed for that. And so it gives these people a little more meaning to Kennedy's life. And it also allows you to, whether you're on the left or you're on the right, to bash the people you want to bash. Oh, I hate the CIA, so I'll blame them. Or if you're on the right these days, I hate the deep state, and so it must be the deep state that killed Kennedy. So it's a great little theory because both people on the right and left could use it for their own means.
Is it is it true because you look at everything from military service to as he got into office, the things that he was changing in America, and you go, you know what? This guy was a mover and a shaker. And really it's because he got taken out by a bullet. That's what did it. You know, I mean, of all the things he moved and changed, and I mean, from being a hero in war you know, I mean, facing communists in office to, I mean, you know, he stared down the barrel of Cuba, 90 miles
Yeah.
away off our shores, right? I mean, it, you know, even though it wasn't successful, I mean, but
Well,
still,
there's a bit of a JFK myth here because these people they sort of idol. It's a cult of JFK in my mind because they have to say, oh, he was going to get out of Vietnam. Well, it's just not true.
right,
He wasn't going to get out of Vietnam, and of course, we don't know whether he would have sent in ground troops like Lyndon Johnson. We'll never know that because he was killed. But he certainly was very, very committed to Vietnam. He really believed that there was a real battle to be fought against the communists there. He you know, again, he was a Cold Warrior,
mhm.
and in fact, the speech in Dallas that he was going to give on November 22nd was basically bragging about all the increases to the military budget and all the new weapons programs that he had initiated.
Yeah, I, yeah, and I mean, you're right about that. I mean, he's a war vet, so you know, to say that he would have, you know, he would have been peace and love and backed out of that thing, it probably not, probably not.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's his legacy has taken on a whole new turn, or taken a whole turn different than what, and we have elevated him to almost a godlike status after death.
Yeah, and also you know, he died at a very young age, and that the image we have of JFK is this youthful, you know, youthful guy, you know, who's very young, and so that colors our what we think about him as well. I mean, it's unfortunately he didn't even serve a full term, so you know, the real view of Kennedy is always going to be a little bit truncated because we don't really know as much as we'd like to know about what he would have done.
True, very true. Well, and yeah, it's promises unfulfilled. So you
Yeah.
you do get, you know, you do get that you know, could have, would have, should have, that what if factor that's thrown in there. Um, which makes, I guess, a great breeding ground for conspiracy theory, right? You know, well, who would have wanted a guy killed who hasn't yet fulfilled everything there is yet to be fulfilled in office?
Yeah, and you know, and again, if you don't like the mob, you could blame it on the mob or whatever it is. You know, it's a beautiful conspiracy theory that allows you to blame it on anybody you want. And it's a hell of a lot more fun believing in conspiracy than being a person like me who believes there's not a conspiracy. I mean, my playpen is pretty small compared to the playpen of the conspiracy theorists. Uh, they have more fun.
Right. Well, and you look at what's been taken away from us, right? Because had they just captured Oswald, sat Oswald down in a room, got him to confess and say, listen, this is why I did it. And had it been coerced out of him that, hey, I did it because Russia told me to, or I did it because it was just my own political agenda. I didn't like the guy, you know, mystery solved. Hey, we got it out of him. You know, we can all go on with our lives. And he just assassinated a president, and that was it, right?
Yep.
And end of story. We don't have a Warren Commission. We don't have more conjecture. We don't have more stuff to feed off of, and there's no conspiracy theory. But that gets taken away from us by Jack Ruby.
It does, although there still would have been a Warren Commission even if he would have confessed, because you have to investigate all the aspects of the crime, and you have to, you know, so there's a lot to investigate. And by the way, even look at Sirhan. He confessed, and yet they still don't want to believe him. You know, that's not good enough. You
True.
know, so there probably would have been some sort of conspiracy theories, but yes, had he confessed, or I also think had the Warren Commission not made a few mistakes, that some of the issues would have been forestalled. They did make a few mistakes.
But we don't talk about Bobby like we talk about Jack. You know, I mean, there's no huge
No,
Bobby conspiracy. There's no, you know, I mean, he's lumped in with the Kennedy tragedy, but there's no big, oh, the mob circled back to get Bobby, or there's no big, the industrial
no.
Flex
But
game.
if did you see? But there was a Netflix series on Robert Kennedy a few years ago. They did like a four-part series, and it had the same theme. Oh, if Robert Kennedy had been elected, he was going to end poverty. He was going to bring in world peace. He was going to do this. He was going to be, but that he had to be killed. It was the deep state, and so there's some of the same thing.
Sure, but at the same time though, they've left other Kennedys to serve, long terms, in government. So it's not like they're after the whole family. I mean,
No, no. But
so
Robert is one who they do like to lionize a bit as well.
yeah, yeah. And could you say that's so why? I'll ask you this then, Fred. Why stop at Bobby? Why draw the line there? Because you had Ted.
You had Ted. Well, Ted, probably because Ted was a bit of a disappointment, and Ted never quite had the promise, unfortunately, for a whole variety of reasons, the timing, et cetera, et cetera. But Ted just didn't. Robert Kennedy did have a little bit charisma that Edward never had, or Ted never had.
Is it because, let's face it, Bobby had a bit more courage and a bit more of he'd go out on his shield, and Teddy was a bit more of a compromiser. Could we put it that way?
Yeah, and there's a little bit of substance to Robert Kennedy. I don't if you want to read a good book, Gary Wills wrote a really terrific book on the Kennedys, and it really looked at the whole mystique of the Kennedys, and what I thought was funny, and I didn't really realize that he was very very and he's a Catholic, Gary Wills, but he thought that Robert Kennedy was the one Kennedy who didn't really fool around very much. He was very, very loyal to his wife, and there were some number of good qualities to Robert.
I think if there would have been a successor to Jack who would have came in and really ran the country and done a really good job, it would have been him. So maybe he was the one who had to go, because I don't think Ted would have.
No,
No,
Ted just didn't have it. Didn't have the royal jelly, as we would say in Canada.
I think Joe knew that too.
Uh,
Yeah,
Probably he knew a bit of it, well, before he had that horrible stroke in the early '60s.
yeah, yeah. I think he knew that as well. So yeah, that's unfortunate. So we'll get back to the subject at hand here, and that is Jim Garrison is looking for, after, well, I should say, during the era of Clay Shaw here, he's building up evidence, or he's building up suspects to try and go after. Um, I hate to even put it this way, uh, to go after his case.
Yeah,
And one of the is it Crawford or Larry Crawford?
Larry Crawford or Crayford. I'm not really sure exactly the pronunciation myself.
Um, how does Larry Crayford get baked into this whole deal? How does
Yeah.
his story start?
Yeah, Larry Crayford was a very interesting individual. He ended up as a handyman working for Jack Ruby, but before he worked for Jack Ruby, he was basically a drifter. I mean, if you read his Warren Commission testimony, it's actually hard to read because he would get a job somewhere, maybe cutting lumber or something. He would work for like 5 or 6 days, and then he would quit, and he'd move on to another city, and he'd get a job and work 5 or 6 days and quit. He just couldn't hold on to a job. He was footloose. He was running all over the place. He would work in carnivals, canneries, lumber, you name it. In fact, he had so many jobs that he couldn't keep track of them. And the Warren Commission really had trouble keeping track of all of his jobs. And so that's the kind of person he was. He got married young. He got divorced. He joined the military. They threw him out for we're not really sure exactly why. But he was this drifter who just couldn't hold on to a job. And he met Jack Ruby at the State Fair in Dallas. And Ruby hired him as sort of a handyman to live in the club on a cot and basically answer the phone, take messages, clean up, and feed Ruby's dogs, because he had 3 dogs kept at the club. And so that's his story, basically a drifter. And he actually, before the assassination, he had told Jack Ruby, it's time for me to go. I'm going to leave. And Ruby said, don't go, don't go. I'll put you on salary. And he said, okay, I'll stay. And then the assassination happened. And guess what? He took off. He hitchhiked from Dallas to Michigan to stay with his sister. And so that made him a sort of a suspect or a person of interest. Like, why did you leave so suddenly? What's going on here? And of course, it was actually quite in character with Larry Crawford to sort of leave in a hurry. But to conspiracy theorists, he became a suspect. And that ended up, I wouldn't say it ruined his life, but it affected his marriage. And it affected his life because his wife started believing some of the rumors about him, that he might have been involved with the mob, or he might have been a co-conspirator, or he was instructed to lie. And, and then it's all part of my whole theory here that conspiracy theorists really do hurt people. And there are real victims of conspiracy theorists, and Larry Crawford was one.
And it's funny because he's really just an innocent guy who was doing, chores for Jack Ruby and wanted to go see his sister for Thanksgiving. I mean, it's kind of a sad story to be.
It's a sad story, and there's just nothing to him, right? It's really, there's nothing there. And all of a sudden you read some of the old conspiracy books like Josten, who was a German conspiracy author. He wrote like 30 pages. Why Crawford was a shooter, and unfortunately Crawford looked a little bit like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the resemblance was huge, but there's a little bit of a resemblance, and of course that's what was latched onto by theorists. If you believe Oswald is innocent, and that the suspect, like in a Tippit shooting, the officer who was shot on November 22nd, that the suspect looked like Oswald. So if you believe it wasn't Oswald, well, maybe it was Larry Crawford, because he looked like Oswald. That's enough to make him a suspect.
So Crawford gets tipped in, not to throw a pun in here, but he gets tipped in for killing Tippit in the theater, and he wasn't anywhere near it, really.
No, well, in fact, he was sleeping during the assassination. He was woken up in the club by the manager of the club, so we know exactly where Crawford was. But then Garrison also felt like, oh, maybe, we can't believe that guy. We don't know where he really was, so maybe he was in the grassy knoll. Maybe he was an assassin on the grassy. I don't know where. Just like, okay, maybe he was one of the killers.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like you said, people want to throw things around because they can. I mean, it just because they can. Yeah,
they can do it. And Garrison was not shy about saying some of this. And there's so many. In fact, a future book of mine might be the victims of conspiracy theorists, and look at all the people who got hurt by a lot of this stuff. There's an awful lot of people who were hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sad thing, that's for sure. Tell you what, Fred, we'll take our break here. When we come back, I wanted to, the other part of this program is a paranormal program. And one of the chapters in your book is incredibly fascinating. It has to do with the Reverend Raymond Brochures. And I struggle to say the word Reverend with Raymond Brochures, but we'll give him his due respect. He did earn the certificate, evidently. But we'll talk about the Reverend Raymond Brochures and exactly what he did that was paranormal, supposedly. We'll talk about that when we get back. As he reached out to the other side, we'll tell you how he did that and what exactly he accomplished. When we come back as well, we'll talk about a drug-addicted prostitute who was found on a roadside in 1965, what she had to do with Garrison. And we'll also talk a little bit about what the French had to do with all of this and how they screwed everything up and got Jim Garrison in a tizzy, and how they almost ruined the case when it came to JFK and the assassination, and how they almost changed this entire thing, and how they almost had us believing a whole different outcome as to who shot JFK. So When we come back, more with Fred Litwin. This is an amazing book, folks, and I encourage you to go out and get it. Again, the name of the book is A Heritage of Nonsense. It's an amazing book, folks. It's Jim Garrison's Tales of Mystery and Imagination. And we have a link to it in the description of this program right now. Go out and get it during the break. When we come back, more with Fred Litwin right after this on the best in true crime podcasting, True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Our guest is Fred Litwin. The name of the book, A Heritage of Nonsense, Jim Garrison's Tales of Mystery and Imagination. And boy, is it ever. There's a lot in here, folks, and a lot. There's a lot to digest, but a lot of it's entertaining. I tell you, this book, Fred, is very, very entertaining. It will definitely grab your attention. It'll grab your imagination, and there's a lot of it that'll make you smile. One of the things that made me smile in this book is the Reverend Raymond Brochures. I was telling you before the break, Fred, that part of this program is a paranormal program. The Reverend Raymond Brochures is a very colorful character. I get my English, my lips wrapped around my mouth here and able to pronounce things. A very colorful character, as he uses the term reverend, which is loosely portrayed. He got a certificate from the Universal Life Church, which is very easy to do, as most of us know. It's just that, that application in order to get that. But he claims to have gotten his information from the other side to help solve this whole deal. Fill us in a little bit about the good Reverend and how he added to Jim Garrison's conspiracy theory and helped him try to make his case that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yes, the Reverend Raymond Brochures is a fascinating character, and in real life, he was a gay rights activist in San Francisco who actually is one of the heroes of gay rights, and he'll go down in history for what he did for gay rights, although very controversial about what he did in San Francisco. But before he was a gay rights activist, he was sort of a minister, in the LA area, who sort of believed that he had psychedelic powers. And there was a television show that was going to have another another person with psychedelic powers, who ended up canceling. And so they got Reverend Raymond Brochures to be a guest on this show. And the host had actually done his homework about Brochures. And so they started talking about seances. And it turns out that Raymond Brochures had channeled Lee Harvey Oswald at a seance. And so Lee Harvey Oswald was telling Raymond Brochures at the seance that he's innocent and he didn't pull the trigger and he was this and he was that. And Brochures actually wrote this all down in one of his church newsletters, which I reproduce in my book. Mm-hmm. And so he's telling the studio audience about this, and the TV host, to his credit, wasn't buying it. And he challenged Brochures, and he said, well, your other predictions aren't very good. You said that George Wallace was going to be elected president, and that's not happening. And Brochures said, well, you know what? That's not my fault. The spirits said that, I'm just channeling this stuff. Yeah. Where this gets really interesting is that he then goes on to say that he was a roommate of David Ferry's in New Orleans, and that David Ferry confided in him all this stuff about the assassination. Well, guess what? Some of Garrison's local investigators, volunteer investigators, were listening to this show, and their ears perked up when they heard that Brochures might have been a roommate of David Ferry. They didn't really care whether he channeled Oswald or not. That was like, okay, that's a small detail. So they had to go and find him, and they did, including Mark Lane. Mark Lane went out to visit Raymond Brochiers, and they interviewed him a couple of times in Los Angeles, and he weaved all these incredible stories about flying the assassins from, Dallas to Corpus Christi, and the plane crashed, and David Ferry told me this and told me that. And so they were like, he bamboozled them. They thought, okay, we got to take you to New Orleans so you can meet Jim Garrison and you could be interviewed in New Orleans. And so they fly him to New Orleans and they interview him twice, very, very lengthy interviews. You can actually go on my website and read the transcripts of these interviews. And I think it was pretty clear to them this guy was making stuff up, telling all these stories. And of course, while he's in New Orleans, he had a pretty good time running after the boys of New Orleans, and eventually they sent him on his way back to Los Angeles. To make a long story short, which is quite amazing, Brochiers was actually asked to testify before the House Select Committee on Assassinations.
Oh, wow.
He testified for an hour, and you could actually hear his testimony on my YouTube channel. It's I posted it, so you can hear him telling even more stories to the HSCA, and including stories that completely contradicted what he had said earlier.
Really?
Wow. I think the HSCA realized, okay, this guy is just telling us nonsense.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that would be a nice end of story. But what I find frightening is the fact that many conspiracy theorists still quote Raymond Brochiers as a source that proves whatever they want to prove about David Ferry or Oswald or a conspiracy. He's in all the conspiracy books. None of them realize this man has no credibility.
That's crazy.
It's just unbelievable.
And now, okay, in our business here, Fred, I mean, you've got good psychics, you've got bad psychics. Obviously, Raymond Brochiers was not a good psychic. Okay.
No.
He's, let's face it, the whole George Wallace for president thing. Okay. So he missed big time on that deal. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's going around proving he's not of great character anyways, but and it has nothing to do with lifestyle or anything like that. It's just the fact that he's proving he's kind of slippery to begin with. That the things he's supposedly channeling aren't of great merit, right? That maybe he's doing things to get attention.
Yep.
He's just trying to raise his own profile. There's certain things in there that that he's doing just to get attention, right? It should be obvious. So right.
Yeah, you would think it would be obvious. I mean, it's obvious to you and to me, but no, to the conspiracy theorists. So this was a serious witness.
Yeah, yeah, and and through that, by proxy, you would think that this would reflect badly on Jim Garrison, but yet people are still listening to Jim Garrison and still taking him as a serious presenter of evidence. This is
Yep.
People are still taking him at his word and saying, hey, you know what? This guy is still, bringing forth credible witnesses.
Yeah, Jim Garrison had something, as they said. Well, he really had nothing.
Yeah, crazy. One of the ones that he brings forward, you bring up David Ferry again. I just want to bring up real quick Bootsy Gay, who is a client of G. Ray Gill, who's a New Orleans lawyer who employed David Ferry. And there's something about a map.
Yeah, basically, this is a story told by Jim Garrison to the House Select Committee on Assassinations. But basically, he was investigating back in '67, and there was a woman, Bootsy Gay, who was basically a sort of an artist. She ran a gallery. She was a poet, a bit of a segregationist as well. But basically, she went to Garrison and she said, my lawyer is G. Ray Gill. He employs David Ferry. And I saw on David Ferry's desk right after the assassination, I saw a map of Dealey Plaza on his desk. And I wanted to take the map, but the receptionists there, the secretaries who worked there stopped me. And so I don't have it, but I saw it. And so Garrison went to the HSCA years later to say, look, this is a very important lead, that she actually saw a map. It was Dealey Plaza. There were markings on there that indicated the assassination. It was on David Ferry's desk, and you should go investigate.
Mhm.
And I thought, I'd written this up. I said, this is all crazy. How can Garrison believe this nonsense? There's no real evidence of anything. And of course, she couldn't produce the map. But what really surprised me, and I was reading Joan Mellon, who is another conspiracy author. She has this story in her book, and she had a source that I did not know about. And her source for the fact there was a map was a letter that Bootsy Gay had written her congressman back in December 1963. And I thought, well, that's a contemporaneous account. If that's really true, and she was writing about that in December 63, then maybe she really did see something. But of course, COVID was around, and I couldn't go traveling. I couldn't go to Tulane University to check out this letter that Bootsy Gay had written, so it sort of was in the back of my mind. But right after COVID, I organized a trip with my JFK buddies to New Orleans
Mhm.
to sort of visit all the sites. And I decided, I'm going to go to Tulane University and see if I could find this letter, which I did.
Hmm.
And Bootsy Gay had indeed written a 13-page letter to her congressman in December 1963 about David Ferry. This was after, of course, David Ferry had been arrested by the New Orleans police for possible involvement. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing in her 13-page letter about a map, about seeing a map. She said nothing about it. And that really floored me because that's a really good contemporaneous account of what was going on. And Joan Mellon had seen her letter, but doesn't mention it in her book that there's nothing in the letter.
Interesting.
And so it's a very good indictment of conspiracy theorists and how they hide, even when they have sort of exculpatory evidence, they try to hide it. They don't really tell you everything they know. And it's a very good little case study.
It is. It's very good. And it's very indicative of the fact that, maybe Jim Garrison didn't have as much in his back pocket as he said he did.
Yeah, and on my website, I actually published the whole 13-page letter, so you can actually read it for yourself on my website. And of course, the links are in my book. My book is extensively footnoted. I've got tons of online links. And in fact, I published the links and sources to my book on my website for free, so people can download and look at all those online links themselves.
We'll have a link to your website as well in the description of this program, so people can take a look outside the program and see what we're talking about as well. Rose, is it Cherami? Is that how you
Rose
pronounce
Cherami, Rose Cherami.
Jeremy? Drug addicted prostitute found dead on a roadside in 1965. However, had an interesting little backstory to her in that, I mean, not only did she have a bit of um, a bit of a history to her as well, but she ends up being in the opening scene of Oliver Stone's film JFK. How
Yeah,
does she get to such prominence that she makes the opening scene of JFK?
that's a really good question. I wish I had a good answer. She is a staple of the conspiracy theorists. I think almost every single conspiracy book will have the Rose Cherami story of a woman who was basically in a car accident on the roadside right before the assassination, supposedly taken to a hospital, a mental institution in Louisiana, where she told people before the assassination that Kennedy was going to be killed. That's the story. That's the conspiracy story. And it's in every conspiracy book. There's only one problem with the story, is that there is absolutely no evidence, none, that she said anything about the assassination before it happened. There's not one eyewitness who has come forward to say that. And the evidence is very, very clear, and I show it in my book. And conspiracy theorists are not happy with me for pointing this out, but I think that she said something about Jack Ruby after the assassination, something quite erroneous. She said that Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald were bed partners. and that they had been shacking up for years.
Wow.
And of course, this is not true.
Huh.
Um, and she also talked a lot about a narcotics deal. And in fact, the policeman who took her to, who was involved in her case back in November '63, managed to fly her to Houston to investigate this narcotics deal. What I don't understand, and I'll keep on asking this, you're a policeman in Louisiana.
Hmm.
Let's say you have a Rose Cherami is telling you before the assassination that it's going to happen,
Yeah.
and then Kennedy is assassinated. What do? Wouldn't you call the FBI?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you call the Warren Commission? Call somebody and say, "Hold it, this person has important testimony." Instead, supposedly, he just asked her if she wanted to talk to the Dallas police, and she said no. He said, "Okay." I mean, who would do that? I mean, you would force her. You would take her yourself to the FBI and say, "Tell us what you know."
Yeah. I'd throw her over my shoulder and take her to the federal authority.
Exactly. And so none of that was done, which leads me to really believe that she didn't say anything about the assassination, and that's why this policeman worked on the narcotics deal rather than working on the assassination.
Yeah. 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 It does seem like a little bit of a exaggeration. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, it's a myth that's grown up that isn't, again, you'll find it in just about every conspiracy book. They love this story, and when I challenge them online to produce any evidence that she said this, um, they stomp off. They get very angry,
Yeah.
and it's a very, very telling story.
Very much so. Very much so. Um, as we're starting to wind down a little bit here, Fred, I don't want to jump too much into this story because it's very involved and I want to save it for the book. But Richard, is it Nagel or Nagell?
It's either Nagel or Nagel, and he
Okay.
actually used both pronunciations, so I'm not sure exactly myself the correct way to pronounce it.
He's so intriguing, but there's so much to it. And again, it's one of those stories I want people to get into it in the book, but Korean War veteran, military intelligence, but he ends up getting brain damage from is it plane crash? Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and in that, it sends him into a tailspin. Explain to people what and how he fits into this whole thing, and how he takes people on a bit of a ride, including Jim Garrison.
Yeah, it's a very and it's ultimately a very sad story because Richard Case Nagell was a decorated war veteran who led 175 missions in during the Korean War successfully, but ultimately was in a plane crash in 1954, the sole survivor of a plane crash. He was in the wreckage for over 12 hours. Um, when they found him, he was on, barely conscious. He had suffered, his jawbone was broken in both places. He suffered a severe concussion, a huge gash on his face. On the site, they had to perform a tracheostomy to get him to breathe. And he was in a coma for a month, and it took him 6 months to recover. And he suffered organic brain damage. And when he went back to duty, he was never the same and had to leave the military. And he unfortunately gets into the whole JFK assassination. He inserts himself into the JFK assassination. And of course, to make a long story short, conspiracy theorists believe that he has the key to understanding the whole conspiracy theory, because he claims that he knew Lee Harvey Oswald, that he worked for the CIA, that he worked for the KGB, that he understood the plot, that he had tape recordings, all sorts of evidence, none of which ever materialized. And he strung a lot of people along. And it's a very sad story because he died broke, and he was a broken man from that plane crash. It took him many, many years to even get a decent pension from the military because of the damage. It's actually a sad story.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And yeah, and you want to talk about what it's a great it's kind of a great blush of what happens when things happen. We talk about brain injuries in this day and age and how much we know about the study of the brain and what happens in different uh, brain injuries. You talk about what happens with soldiers that even using concussive weapons right now, and what happens with CTE and that. You talk about what happened with him in a plane crash in that concussive injury, and how he spiraled out of control. Different things from losing his family to, um, not being able to get along with people to, just violent behavior. He had his own issues with violent behavior. He's a case study in what happens when you change the chemistry of the brain through physical damage. I mean, I encourage people to pick up the book just to read his case alone is disturbing. It's
It really is, and people today still believe that he held the key. He promised. He told people he had all this information, documents, photographs, tape recordings, and of course, after he died, that nothing ever materialized. Um, he had nothing, and it's a very, very sad story. And why people believe that he still holds the key is beyond me.
well, the other part of that too, though, Fred, is that someone who is damaged like that, sometimes that type of damage turns something on in the brain that allows you to come up with some fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know, I think he wanted some of these conspiracy theorists to help him, and they helped him in his case against the government. But I think he enjoyed a bit of enticing these people for some reason. Can't explain it. But he was also very good. He was an intelligent man. He was a good read of character, and what I found funny is he would go to these conspiracy theorists, and before he would say, "Here's what I know," he would say, "What do you think the theory is?
Mhm.
Tell me your theory." And then he would weave, "Oh yes, you're right. You're right. Oh yes, that really is part of it." And he would weave that into his story, and that would help would get people to believe him because he was just feeding back their own prejudices.
We got off on manipulation, which was amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing how
yeah,
that little bit of it changed his character personality, getting in that accident, um, to someone who weaved and manipulated his way through life, and he became a violent manipulator throughout the rest of
yeah,
his life.
yeah.
It,
That's what he was.
yeah, it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Um, Finally, let's talk a little bit about the how French intelligence almost blew this entire thing open. Farewell America was the name of a book and eventually a movie that almost blew everything out of the water and changed the way we knew the JFK assassination. Had Jim Garrison got his way. But as it turns out, something happened along.
Well, it's this is an amazing story because Jim Garrison. A lot of people sent things to Jim Garrison, and to make a long story short, out of the blue, these three packages arrived with three parts to a manuscript. And Garrison reads this manuscript. It's about the JFK assassination. It purports to be written either by the KGB, or he wasn't really sure who it was written by, but he thought it was initially the KGB. And he reads this manuscript. He gives it out copies to some of his other researchers. And to Garrison, what I find, this to me, the big story is he's convinced. This is a very important publication. It has the ballistics, it has the answers, it has all the data, it's all here. And so he wants to find out what's the source of this manuscript. And he sends one of his investigators to Europe to find out the source. And he comes back and says it's French intelligence. And then once he tells Garrison that, Garrison, of course, calls the press, calls the New York Times. Oh my God, I've got the Foreign Intelligence Service of an allied country telling me, the CIA and others are behind the assassination. And and what's funny is that when you read the actual manuscript of Farewell America, it's like a term paper. It's like a bad term paper that somebody wrote about the social ills of the United States. And then it weaves this ridiculous conspiracy theory in there using some of Garrison's characters that Anybody in their right mind would have said, this is ridiculous. This is silly. But to Garrison, it was like manna from heaven. Well, yes, you're feeding back to me all that I thought I knew about the assassination, and yes, so this manuscript must have meaning, and it must be good. And as I show in the book, it's just completely full of ridiculous nonsense.
Is this where that speech at the end of JFK comes from? That it's, you know, it's the CIA, it's the mafia, it's you, it's me, it's that, it's this, it's the other. Do you remember that speech?
Well, are you talking about the Mr. X and Donald Sutherland character?
Yeah, yeah, where he's
That,
talking about who killed
well,
JFK.
not really. That actually comes from Fletcher Prouty,
Okay.
who was another complete nutcase, who Oliver Stone believed. I really wasn't involved with Jim Garrison. This is a real Oliver Stone invention there, because that meeting in the park never took place. Although I should tell you, there was a meeting in Central Park, and it was with Nagell.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and in fact, he was called Mr. X. Nagell was the real Mr. X, or the
Oh,
first Mr. X, and he did supposedly meet with Garrison in Central Park.
hmm. All right.
So it's sort of a smashing up of things in the movie JFK. So this is all it all comes together, in a sense.
Huh. All right. Well, yeah. It's interesting when you see art on the screen and you really figure out how it lines up in real life, and you go, oh, that's where it came from, and then you can kind of roll your eyes. I guess in closing here, Fred, I would ask you this: is when you start to look at the real legacy of Jim Garrison, you have to ask yourself, well, what exactly is it? What are we looking at here? I mean, did he really accomplish anything as DA of New Orleans? What actually did he accomplish?
Yeah, and I keep on telling people that his investigation revealed nothing. His investigation for 3 years, he looked into the assassination. He's followed every single lead. He came up with absolutely nothing except the stuff he manufactured, which was a crime, actually. So, it was an empty investigation, and tried his best, but just came up with absolutely nothing.
In that, I mean, did he ever did he ever come up with anything with any of the suspects he chased? I mean, did he even come up with a jaywalking ticket? I mean, anything?
Well, he certainly came up with he actually indicted two people for he not only indicted Clay Shaw, he actually indicted another guy, Edgar Eugene Bradley, who is a promoter of Christian radio in Los Angeles. Garrison indicted him for conspiracy to kill Kennedy, and on no evidence at all. And in fact, in that case, Garrison actually apologized years later to Edgar Eugene Bradley, blaming it on his staff, but was Garrison's idea.
Jeez. I, and I mean, for what it's worth, it doesn't. So why? And again, this, I guess I'll end it on this note. So why does Jim Garrison get so much time in JFK? What's the point? Why does Oliver Stone put him in the forefront of JFK and make him the catalyst of the movie?
It's a crime that Oliver Stone did that, and of all the ways that Oliver Stone could have told the assassination story, and he had to pick Jim Garrison. It's really unfortunate that he chose that mechanism to tell his story.
Because you just tried to make a hero out of a guy who really didn't accomplish
Yeah,
it.
no, a hero out of a guy who was actually a villain, who was a pretty evil guy.
I mean, essentially, he wasted a lot of taxpayer dollars, and he didn't.
And
He
he
did.
ruined Clay Shaw's life.
Yeah, yeah. And, it didn't. It didn't seem like there was much accomplished there.
No, nothing at all.
To me, it doesn't seem like that's worthy of even Hollywood's money.
It isn't. And in fact, I really wish somebody would make a true film of the real story, because it's a really interesting story, and somebody should make a movie.
I think someone should take your book and make a movie. I mean, I think the book is very interesting in that you could make a heck of a movie out of it. I mean, just some of the characters that are here. to make a movie out of that. I mean, it's fascinating, Fred, that's for sure. Folks, I encourage you to go get the book. We have a link in the description of this program, and there's just some fascinating characters here. A Heritage of Nonsense, Jim Garrison's Tales of Mystery and Imagination. Fred Litwin is our guest and the author. Fred, I want to thank you so much for being with us again.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure to be here.
The pleasure's all ours. And again, the next book comes out. Please come back on the program.
Okay, thank you very much. I certainly will.
Thank you. Folks, time now for us to lighten things up a bit. We'll bring in Jessica Freeberg. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, we bring in a world-renowned author, one that everyone knows around the globe. I don't even, the likes of Stephen King, the likes of who's that guy who writes all the spy novels? I can't even name him because he's not as famous as this next author I'm about to bring on. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Jessica Freeberg. Jess, how you doing? I can't hear you. You're on mute. See, you've muted yourself. I can't hear you now. See, you've muted yourself. I think it's probably...
Stop. You can't hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Now, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, there's how you start the show.
That's how you
me
start.
all flustered, complimenting me, saying
See?
stuff that's not true but should be.
Well, yeah.
One day, Tim.
One day, yeah. You just have to manifest this stuff, Jess. You just
I
put it out
know.
there. And
I'm a firm believer in manifesting. So
yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, we have some interesting stuff today. We're going to actually start out our first story with someone who's manifested something horrible for themselves.
oh no, that's not the kind of manifesting we're gonna do, Tim. We're only
No,
gonna bring good
no.
stuff into the world.
Only positive stuff, Jess. But yeah, and we have an ironic section today. We have an irony section of today. Not necessarily not safe for work stuff today. I mean, there is some stuff that's not safe for work. The irony section is not safe for work, I guess, in a weird way.
Okay.
But it's very funny. The irony section is today. But some very bizarre, strange, dumb crimes, stupid criminals today.
My favorite.
Been a weird week, a very bizarre week this week. I'll put it that way. I would blame it on the hurricane, or hurricanes, but it's been a bizarre few weeks in history. I'll put it that way. Let's just jump in and call it what it is. This first story, Jess, is along the lines of stupid getting stupider. The music industry is a stupid business. Let's just face it. I mean, I had my turn in the music business and selling records to radio stations and being a music rep for a little while.
Okay. That's cool.
I'll just put it this way. Some of the artists are even stupider.
Yeah.
But Kanye West has now been implicated in the Diddy scandal.
Oh no.
After going on television and pointing the finger at Diddy and saying, Diddy, you stupid, you did this, you did that. I know all this dirt on you. Well, guess what? Turns out he was involved as well.
Oh no.
Yep. Kanye West has now been accused of drugging and sexually assaulting an ex-assistant at one of Diddy's parties. Oops. Sometimes the guy who's the loudest turns out was involved all along.
You know what? That really does tend to happen. Like you protest so much that it's almost like you're trying to, I don't know, shift the attention away from what could fall on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on just 1 second here, Jess. There's something going on with your mic here. Go ahead and say something again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yep. Just making sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very unusual in that, it's true. The guy who protests too much tends to be the guy who's probably right there at the source of everything. And it's
Yeah.
through here with Kanye West. He's been accused of drugging and sexually assaulting his one-time assistant and OnlyFans star at a party with Sean Diddy Combs. Alarming new court papers go on to show. The woman's name is Lauren Pisciata, I believe is her name, who worked for the rapper from 2021 through 2022 as a personal assistant. West sought out her and her former musician client, inviting them to a party at a music studio that West and Combs co-hosted, according to court papers obtained by the New York Post. Pisciata, an influencer and former OnlyFans model, said West told everyone at the Santa Monica gathering that they had to drink or leave the party. Now, that's red flags right there. You have to drink or leave the party. If anyone's forcing me to drink anything, it's time to leave.
I'm choosing leave.
Yeah. Because that's just unusual right there. And after taking just a few sips, she suddenly started to feel disoriented and began to slip into an altered and highly impaired state, claimed the papers filed in a Los Angeles Superior Court. The next day, Pisciata couldn't remember the events of the night before, and she felt ashamed and embarrassed. And her musician client, who wasn't identified in court papers, was too traumatized and disturbed to speak about the night. Pisciata, who could not recall and was certainly not aware of any kind of sexual assault had happened to her or her former client, said she was more concerned about with whether she'd embarrassed herself in front of her client or West, the filing went on to say. While Pisciata believed she was drugged, she thought it was the studio assistant or someone else who had helped prepare the drinks who was responsible for drugging her, according to the court papers. It wasn't until before West fired Pisciata that he confessed that he had hooked up, quote unquote, after she was drugged. In other words, he confessed that he had done something with her after she was drugged.
Why? That's, I mean, dumb that he did it, but then he was going to get away with it.
Right. Well, I guess to him it was a source of pride. That doesn't seem like something to be prideful about.
Guilty conscience? Maybe?
Maybe. What's odd is I'll show you a picture of her. To me, she has kind of the Kim Kardashian look.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, here. In fact, you know what? There's this thing that keeps popping up here, but here tell me she doesn't have a Kim Kardashian look to her.
Yeah, she totally does. Looks like that could be a Kardashian for sure.
Yeah.
Right down to the booty.
Yep. So, I mean, he's just projecting, right?
Yeah.
He's projecting that. I don't know. He has a type. We'll just put it that way. He has a type. So the truth came out when 47-year-old West, who legally changed his name to Ye, was complaining about his ex-wife, who wasn't identified in court papers, but was apparently referring to Kim Kardashian. West was enraged about a text exchange that had just happened between himself and his ex, and he mentioned that the ex made a negative comment about Pisciata, whom the ex believed West cheated on with her, that according to court papers. So Pisciata told West she wanted to text the ex to clear things up and tell her, "This is untrue. I did not and would not disrespect you, or your marriage." She proposed writing. So she was willing to text Kim and say, "Hey, it's all in the up and up. I don't want anything to do with your husband."
Right.
Right? She's above board. But West stopped Pisciata from sending the message saying, "We did kind of hook up a little one time."
And she's like, I don't remember that.
Right. The Gold Digger rapper immediately proceeded to reminisce about the party where he hooked up with Pisciata after she had been drugged at that point.
Dang.
Pisciata said the revelation was wildly devastating and uncomfortable, but she was unhappy to learn the truth. And in complete and utter shock, she told West she had no memory of the encounter and, in fact, didn't remember anything after sitting down on the couch at the beginning of the night, that according to the suit. West laughed before allegedly responding. Women love to say they don't remember.
Well, when you drug them, they don't.
That's right. And I heard something interesting this past week that those 1,000 bottles of baby oil that are supposedly at Diddy's mansion,
Yeah.
they're filled with GHB.
What?
It's not baby oil.
Oh my gosh, it just keeps getting worse and worse.
It's a date rape drug.
I don't understand these men who are in such high positions of, I don't want to say power, but I guess it is power, but influence. Like people think they're really cool. They don't need to drug people to hook up
Oh,
with someone.
no,
So it's just like a sick power thing.
it is. It's totally a power and control thing. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. The initial claims, which are still included in the updated version of the lawsuit, allege that West sent inappropriate texts to Pisciata, shared his sexual fantasies with her, and sent her X-rated photos and videos of himself having sex with other women. She also claimed that he once locked himself and Pisciata in a room together and pleasured himself next to her before falling asleep. Pisciata says he promised her millions in severance when he fired her in October of 2022, but she never received the money and was also still owed money from her salary. West's lawyer slammed her lawsuit when it initially was filed as baseless and alleged she's been blackmailing the heartless rapper in a June statement to Page 6. A rep for West didn't immediately return a request for comment on Saturday. Combs was not accused of any wrongdoing in the Pisciata lawsuit, but the Bad Boy Records founder has been criminally charged with sex trafficking and is being held behind bars pending his May trial. Think about that. Diddy is behind bars in that Brooklyn facility until May without bail. I mean, not
That's a
saying
long time.
but that's a long time. And you think about how cruel and unusual those conditions are. I mean, he deserves every bit of it. Don't get me wrong. He deserves every
Yeah.
bit of it. That's a long time to be in those conditions.
Yeah. When you say May, you're like, May?
May. That's
Dang.
third world conditions for 8 months. No, not 8 months. I'm sorry. That's 7 months. 7 months.
But he's been in there a month, so right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
8
been in there
months.
a month. Yeah, it'll be 8 months by the time he sees.
Yeah.
Combs has been accused of sexual abuse in a series of lawsuits. He's denied wrongdoing in both the criminal and civil cases, as far as that goes. So, but interesting now that Kanye's admitted to drugging someone against their will. Does he get the criminal treatment?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope they start looking into him.
Quit doing that stuff. I don't get it. I just don't understand. And I don't understand how that can even be really fun for them to be with someone who is incapable of even participating.
I don't get
That
it.
to me is creepy.
Well, and they popped Bill Cosby for the same thing. He ended up
Yeah.
getting jail time for it. So I don't get the culture of that. I really don't. I don't.
It's weird.
Yeah. I All right, we're about to turn it up a notch here, Jess.
Okay.
This story is disturbing, to say the least. We're going overseas to England, where a daughter's startling confession to police is one that is going to curl your hair a little bit. The police turned up to check on her parents. What they found out next is going to make you wonder if you should turn care over to your children in the future, or if you should
Oh
just
no.
take the home.
Take the home. I've already told my kids, just stick me at home.
Yeah. An Essex woman confessed to murdering her parents and hiding them in a home tomb for years.
What?
Yeah. A chilling police body-worn camera footage shows a woman calmly telling officers how she murdered her own parents, hid their bodies, and carried on living alongside them for 4 years.
That is so disturbing. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I don't, I don't
You
know.
have to go through a period of time where you have to smell the decay.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Right.
If you keep a body, no matter how well you conceal it, it's gonna
Now,
stink, and you're gonna have to live with that until it's done stinking. Like,
yeah. Now,
oh,
Mally and I had talked last week about Lisa Marie Presley and how she had kept her son's body after he had committed suicide for 2 months.
oh my gosh.
And that came out in her memoir that was finished up by her daughter, Riley Keough. And it was only when she had admitted that, or they all had admitted that her son's spirit had come through. And I don't know how it came through, but they said her son's spirit had came through and said enough.
No,
Very,
he's like, put me in a grave. Come on already.
yeah. But
Wow.
they had kept his body in a casitas at 55 degrees.
Okay, so he
Which,
was like preserved.
no, that's not cold enough to preserve the body.
Oh,
So it decomposed, and even though he had been embalmed, he was slowly decomposing. So that's still enough to let off gases. It's still enough to sting,
yeah.
but that's slowly. But imagine both your parents in a tomb, no embalming, no nothing.
No, that's terrible. This is a disturbing personal story, but we had a neighbor who passed away in his house, and he was in there for several days before anyone realized that he was gone. And I mean, we all could smell it in the neighborhood. It was like, oh, what is that? And then the cops came and they took his body out and they opened the windows, and then it was really bad. It
Oh,
was it was so sad, so sad. But I mean, like that smell, living with that, oh, knowing it's your parents, like you did that.
well, 36-year-old Virginia McCullough poisoned her father, 70-year-old John McCullough, with prescription medication and beat and stabbed her 71-year-old mother, Lois McCullough. That's how they died.
Dang.
Yeah.
She must have really not liked her mom.
It's not. She kept her father's body in a homemade mausoleum composed with masonry blocks stacked together inside his room. It formed a rectangular tomb and was covered with multiple blankets and a number of pictures and paintings over the top, Lisa Wildling KC said. McCullough hid her mother's body wrapped in a sleeping bag inside a wardrobe. She was today jailed for life with a minimum term of 36 years.
She earned that, that's for sure.
Doesn't seem like enough, you know?
Yeah. Seems like she liked her dad better though. So it sounds like she created a nice space for him to
Right.
rest, and then her mom got shoved in a wardrobe.
Yeah. 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 That's exactly what it was. The judge, Mr. Justice Johnson, said McCullough had engaged in substantial planning and premeditation before carrying out the killings. He told her, "You drugged your father's drink 2 days before the murders in order to use him as a guinea pig. You had a primary plan, which was to use the drugs to cause her death. And you had a backup plan, which was to use murder weapons, including a knife, if your primary plan failed." Oh, imagine that. You survive the drugs and you end up getting killed by knife.
Ugh, give
That's
me the
that's if it,
drugs.
that's if it would have failed. Thank God the drugs worked. That's all I got
On
to
the
say.
dad, but maybe they didn't work on the mom. Maybe that's why she beat and stabbed her.
Well, it sounds like the drugs worked. Um,
Okay.
McCullough then robbed her parents of dignity and death by hiding their bodies, the judge added. "You think more of money than you do of humanity," he said. "Your parents were entitled to feel safe in their own beds and in their own home. They are entitled to feel safe with their own daughter." McCullough carried out their murders between June 17th and June 20th of 2019 before concealing their bodies at their home in Great Baddow, Essex. She continued to live at the address and told persistent lies about their whereabouts. This included telling doctors and relatives the parents were unwell, on holiday, or away on lengthy trips. Her actions were uncovered after her parents' GPS raised concerns over missed appointments, and Essex police were forced entry to the home on September 15th of 2023. In the moments afterwards, she confessed to what she had done. Ms. Wilding said the defendant had been thinking about killing her parents since March of 2019 and had been planning for it. She said that McCullough had not been employed for many years. The prosecutor said the defendant engaged in online gambling and spent £21,193 in transactions related to gambling between June 1st of 2018 and September 14th of 2023. Ms. Wilding said that McCullough made arrangements to ensure that she continued to enjoy the benefit of the pensions that continued to be paid in their names after the deaths of her parents. Prosecutor said McCullough benefited from $59,664 and 1 penny. I'm sorry, 1 pound. It's 1 pence, isn't it? There's pounds and pence, if I remember right.
Okay, I don't know my English currency.
From the state pension, and 76,334 pounds from Mr. McCullough's teacher's pension. Wow, between June 18th, 2019 and September 15th of 2023. So she got a total of, just quick math here, over 130,000 pounds in that.
That sounds substantial.
I mean, that's pretty good for just sitting at home and doing nothing. But that's over 4 years. But still,
I couldn't live on that probably, but
if the house is paid off and you're only paying utilities, I mean, there's really, you're not doing much.
that's true. The house payment does take the bulk of the money. So if that's not a consideration.
And if it's a low
That'd
house
be good.
payment, if it's a
Yeah.
house payment that, I mean, you've had for a while, or the house is paid off, then, that's gravy. So
Yeah.
Miss Wilding said money appeared to have been frittered away, and the investigation had not revealed any expenditure or on expensive, luxury, or extravagant items. A worker at a nearby shop who asked not to be named said McCullough had told him her parents had moved to be by the seaside. The seaside, I guess, huh? He said, "We're all shocked. We didn't think she was capable of this." Judge Mr. Justice Johnson is to sentence McCullough on Friday at Chelmsford Crown Court, warning her at an earlier hearing that she faced a life sentence. Judge Christopher Morgan, who presided over the plea hearing, said, "You will understand that there's a single sentence that can be passed upon you in these circumstances. Consideration, however, has to be given to the minimum term." Fascinating, disturbing, just all around. I don't know. 36
thought
years.
you were taking me to jolly old England, Tim. That wasn't jolly.
No. I didn't say we were going to jolly old. I never.
That's what I heard in my mind when you said we're going to England. I was like, oh, jolly old England.
No, not jolly at all.
It's terrible.
36 years for only 130,000 pounds is not a lot. I mean, in American money, that's only like $120,000. That's not
Okay.
not a lot of cash. That's for sure. Let's move on, Jess. We're going to Florida, and but nothing having to do with hurricanes on this one. This one is unusually stupid. Really stupid. A man standing watch accidentally shoots his pal using a walker to death when he mistook him for a threat. So I want you to imagine you're standing watch, you got a gun.
Okay.
You turn, you see your pal who's in a walker, and you go bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, the guy in the walker. What a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying.
Yeah. A Florida man's behind bars because he accidentally shot his friend while they were standing watch outside a home because he felt threatened by someone else, deputies say. The Escambia County Sheriff's Office responded Tuesday to a home in the 10,000 block of North Loop Road in Pensacola for a shooting. When they arrived, they found a 44-year-old man suffering from a gunshot wound. Paramedics pronounced him dead and an investigation ensued. Detectives determined that the victim and his buddy, 41-year-old David Lee Allen Cucker, thought someone may be trying to harm them, so the pair stood watch outside Cucker's sister's house. At some point, Cucker got into the back seat of a car where he fell asleep. The friend saw Cucker had fallen asleep, so with the help of a walker, he approached the car, according to deputies. He was not armed, police said. Cucker awakened and saw a figure standing outside the window of the car. At this time, he fired one shot through the car window, killing his 44-year-old acquaintance.
Crazy. That guy should not have a gun.
Right. Cops arrested Cucker for manslaughter. Information such as why the two men felt threatened and the victim's name were not released. Probable cause arrest affidavit was not available as of Thursday. This action is deemed by the Escambia County Sheriff's Office to be grossly negligent, and he is being charged accordingly, Sheriff Chip Simmons said in a statement. Deputies took Cucker to the Escambia County Jail, where he is being held on $100,000 bond. He has a court date scheduled for October 25th. It's unclear if Cucker has a lawyer. If convicted, Cucker can be faced up to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. I want to show you the picture of the confused shooter.
Well, he looks a bit confused.
Yeah, he looks like he's confused at life. So, yeah, it's just looks like life has him by the brain.
He looks exhausted.
Probably. I mean, he's probably
Can barely keep his eyes open.
probably been up all night wondering who he shot. I'm just saying. Life is hard for him, Jess. I think life is generally hard.
Life is hard. Extra hard for him.
We've got drug news. This man was stupid enough to try to kill almost 3.5 million people in Long Island.
Wow, what an idiot.
You know, we had a story, not a story, but a topic quite a few weeks ago on True Crime Tuesday, talking about how actually it was about the godfather of fentanyl, the guy who first invented fentanyl or first started trafficking fentanyl, not invented, trafficking it in the United States. And the guy who first started trafficking it talked about how dangerous it was to make it and how just making it can kill you, right? And
like breathing in the fumes or
just touching it.
Oh,
Touching it through your skin can kill you.
wow.
But yeah, even breathing in the fumes, the raw fentanyl, making it, manufacturing it can kill you. And how the first time he tried the process of making it, he nearly killed himself. It was that dangerous.
Yeah, too bad he didn't.
But
I mean, not that I want him to die, but if his legacy is creating fentanyl and ultimately killing people with it.
well, he also came up with what's interesting is he also came up with a quicker, easier way to make it that's not so dangerous. That was his legacy.
Mm,
Yeah. So,
yuck.
yeah, right. Well, a Long Island man has had enough fentanyl in his home to kill 3.5 million people, according to the DA there. Think about that. 3.5 million people. And it doesn't take that much. I mean, a pinhead's worth to kill a person.
I don't understand if they just mix it in with other drugs to make them less expensive for them when they sell them.
It
They're
doesn't,
killing people.
yeah, it doesn't take that much. It literally doesn't take that much. A 43-year-old Long Island man has been indicted on drug trafficking and other charges after law enforcement seized cocaine, 33 pounds of narcotics, and enough fentanyl to kill 3.5 million people from his Bellaport home, according to the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. Suspect, I believe it's Ramon Gibson, was arraigned Wednesday on the charges, which also include criminal possession of a controlled substance and endangering the welfare of a child. So he was doing all this around a kid. He was ordered held on $200,000 cash or $800,000 bond. He faces 15 years to up to life in prison if convicted of the top count in the indictment, operating as a major drug trafficker. According to investigators, they executed a search warrant for the Sunburst Lane home on September 25th. Investigators allege a large amount of fentanyl was found on a nightstand in the men's bedroom, which is next to a room occupied by his two young children.
Wow.
Yeah. Cocaine also allegedly was discovered hidden in a trap behind a backyard shed. So he put the coke in the backyard. He kept the fentanyl right next to the kids' room, not the other way around.
I was gonna say the other way around would have made more sense. I don't think a lot of what he does in life probably makes much sense.
No, no. Authorities also allegedly seized around $80,000 in cash, a drug ledger, and kilo presses, including one with plates used for bricks of fentanyl and cocaine stamped COVID-19, probably so the authorities would stay away from
Uh,
it. Not too brilliant.
No.
The amount of deadly narcotics seized in this operation is staggering. There was enough fentanyl here to kill every man, woman, and child in Long Island, Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney said in a statement. This case underscores our unwavering commitment to dismantling drug operations that threaten our communities. Gibson's attorney, George Duncan, said in a statement that his client maintains his innocence, I don't know how, and is looking forward to fighting the charges. We're looking forward to discovery, and we're looking forward to evaluating the district attorney's claims and the strength of their case, read Duncan's statement. They'll get to test all that November 8th.
He's just like covered in powder and holding vials of fentanyl, and I'm innocent.
Yeah, right. You find that much fentanyl in
Oh,
the house. No, it's my buddy's.
yeah.
He brought it over for
How
the
it got there?
Yeah, I had to keep it somewhere. I just let him hold on to it for a bit.
Yikes.
Yikes. All right, Jess, I have to ask you this. You've got kids at home. They're all eager to want to try to drive.
Yes.
At what age do you say, you know what? Maybe I take them out and let them sit behind the wheel for a bit. We take them to an empty parking lot somewhere or a field somewhere. Maybe I let them get their first little touch behind the wheel and a little driving experience. There's no cops for miles. Maybe I let them try to drive for a second. What age do you do that
When they're 15 and they have a permit.
at?
But as a kid who grew up on a farm, we were definitely driving things well before we were legally old enough.
Well, I mean, like a farm tractor, I get,
Yeah. I had to back the car out a couple times to move it out of the way for farm stuff, but I had to drive the truck a couple places before I was quite technically old enough to drive. But
what was the youngest you had to drive a truck or you had to back it out?
well, tractor, I'm sure I was like 12.
Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty young, but
Yeah.
I got one that's going to curl your hair. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. An intoxicated father taught his or was trying to teach his 9-year-old son how to drive because somebody's got to drive daddy home from the bar.
Can't even you can't see over the steering wheel or reach the pedals.
Well, maybe he's a big 9-year-old.
Dad of the year.
Yeah. There's phone books and blocks to put on your feet,
That's true.
And in the process, someone was run over by a vehicle.
Uh-oh.
Let me get to the story and I'll explain. An
Okay.
Ohio father ended up in the hospital after he was run over by his 9-year-old son while he was teaching the boy how to drive.
Karma.
You gotta love it.
Oh.
It happened around 1 p.m. on a Sunday, this last Sunday, at a home in the 100 block of Carbon Street in Toledo. Local ABC affiliate WTVG obtained surveillance video of the incident from a home across the street. Shows 36-year-old Litwin Williams inside the open door jamb on the driver's side. Williams reportedly told the boy to hit the brake, but the boy didn't know which pedal it was. Of course not. He's 9 years old. How is he going to know which one is which?
Oh, he's just a kid.
Plus, you're yelling at him, and it clouds his brain. And he's going to go, which one? And he's going to hit whichever one he hits first.
That's right. This is really a well-earned consequence.
That's right. So the poor boy hit the gas, and the car went into reverse. and the dad got what he deserved. The video shows Williams being dragged by the vehicle as it backs out into the street and smashes into a telephone pole.
I hope he didn't die or anything, and then I'll really feel bad for laughing.
Williams gets sucked under the car and run over. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital at that point. Cops have not released his condition. He was intoxicated during the incident, of course, so he's probably just fine.
Oh, yeah.
The boy
I'll
was,
bounce right back.
yeah, the boy was not hurt, thank God. Another child in the back seat was uninjured, so yeah,
Wow.
he was a responsible parent. You can't have the other kid inside watching cartoons. You got to teach the other kid in the backseat how to drive as well, because
That's right.
what happens when the 9-year-old can't drive? You got to have the 5-year-old ready. Got to have a backup driver.
It's crazy.
Police arrested Williams for wrongfully entrusting a person without a license and child endangerment, according to records. He has a court date scheduled for October 16th. We'll see if he makes that based on medical condition.
Yeah, hopefully he's out of the hospital by then.
Toledo police officer Prince Flores told WTVG it is heartbreaking to see because as a parent, when you see that happen, you think about how you could prevent it. As a parent, your job is to make sure your kids are safe and to make sound decisions. You want to make sure that you're putting them in the best possible position to be okay. You don't want to put them in a situation that they're not ready for or mature enough to realize. In other words, be a good parent. Don't put them behind the wheel at 9.
No. And what about being so wasted at, was it like 1:30 you said in the afternoon when this happened on a Sunday?
1 o'clock on a Sunday.
Fun.
I know the games kick off relatively early, but you know, it was probably halftime of the Browns game or something. I don't know. By the way, Junior, I'm gonna teach you how to drive so we can go to the store and get more beer.
Oh,
Or the other reason they probably taught the kid how to drive, so they could chase Cookie Monster down the street. Because in our next story, Jess, Cookie Monster was bizarrely caught speeding on a traffic cam, but the cops weren't amused. I know I sound like I've been drinking myself by saying that last sentence.
I didn't know Cookie Monster could drive.
He can, and I'm about to show you the picture of Cookie Monster behind the wheel. I'm not shitting you here, Jess. Here is the picture of Cookie Monster behind the wheel.
What the heck?
There he is.
It literally is Cookie Monster.
Yeah, and he's behind the wheel of a vehicle and he's speeding.
Wow.
Yep,
He had to get to some cookies.
he did. In fact, here's the close-up of Cookie Monster behind the wheel. There he is right there.
Oh my gosh, if that's a costume, I mean, that's amazing. Obviously, it's a costume because it's
Well,
a human driving the car, not Cookie Monster.
yes.
But how can he see?
Well, the googly eyes, of course.
Like,
And the fact that the mouth is wide open and there's probably,
probably, but you would have no peripheral vision driving in that map.
that's why he's speeding. Because you got to drive fast. You got to drive fast, blow all lights, and get to where you're going.
He's like, I just got to get there. I can't see anything.
That's right. It seems eating isn't the only thing Cookie Monster does too quickly. A police camera captured the bizarre moment a motorist sped through an intersection in Germany while dressed as the blue biscuit-loving children's character. The fun of wearing a mask from the Muppet Show, it says the Muppet Show here, but we all know it's Sesame Street, can quickly turn serious, police spokesman Peter Bandeman told Newsflash while describing the incident. The pic, which was snapped in the western city of Dortmund, Westphalia on September 20th, shows the googly-eyed character driving an Audi at 60 miles per hour, which was 10 miles per hour faster than the posted speed limit. So he wasn't going too high over the speed limit, but
It's not terrible, but
fast enough. The combo of the speed and the ridiculous costume led police to believe that the Cookie Monster cosplayer, whose identity was yet to be wasn't yet uncovered, deliberately got themselves caught on camera for a brazen gag. However, they felt the stunt was no laughing matter. It won't help the relatives of a person who's been killed if the person who did it tearfully regrets their mask fun in court, said Banderman, who has no sense of humor. I put that last part in. If authorities do track down the shaggy suited troll, they will be slapped with a $50 fine. Only $50 to dress like Cookie Monster and drive around Germany, evidently.
That's not a bad fine. It might be worth it.
I'll take it. This isn't the first time Cookie Monster has enraged or engaged in questionable behavior. In 2023, authorities instructed residents of Santa Cruz, California, to avoid interacting with a man gussied up as the crummy character after he was observed yelling obscenities and taunting locals strolling along the coastal city's boardwalk. So yes, Cookie Monster was yelling, "Fucking cookie!" Yeah, best Cookie Monster I could do.
It wasn't bad.
I know I can do better, but best I could do on short notice.
You just got to get you a cocktail and then you can let your Cookie Monster out.
That's right. Yeah.
Or put cookies in front of you. That might do it too.
Yes, if I had actual cookies, I could really get into it. All right, more drug stories. When you're caught with a bag of drugs, Jess.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to mislabel the drugs for the cops because that's not going to throw them off the scene.
Okay. Did someone try to do that?
Oh, yeah. Another dumb criminal. So here's the deal. After pulling over suspects driving a stolen car, we go to Oregon for this. Oregon police found a large drug stash inside a bag that had on it the words, "Definitely not a bag full of drugs." It was printed right on it. I'll show you the bag. I kid you not. Here it is. Look, it says, "Definitely not a bag full of drugs."
And it's not just like written on there with a Sharpie. They like had that made.
They had it printed up, probably on, I don't know, Cafe Press.
That is hilarious.
Isn't that fun? I want to meet the company that actually makes those.
Yeah.
Definitely not a bag full of drug bag.
I'm getting you that for Christmas.
Thank you. I appreciate it if you would. Yeah.
I want you to use it when you travel.
I will. I'm gonna drive around town with it. And then I'm gonna put like cookies in it or something. So that when I get pulled over and the cops go to search it, I'll say, "That's definitely not a bag full of drugs, officer." And it'd be like, "Step out of the car, sir." And then he'll search it and it's definitely not a bag full of drugs. It'll just be,
Exactly.
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put donuts in it. So it'll be a bag of donuts.
And they'll be really happy.
Oh, they will. I'll let them keep them too. Just saying. Early Wednesday morning, a Portland cop ran the plates of a 1994 Ford Taurus that came back as stolen, according to a probable cause affidavit. The officer subsequently arrested the driver, 35-year-old Reginald Reynolds, and passenger, 37-year-old Mia Bagenstos. Reynolds, cops say, was carrying a loaded .357 handgun in his pocket. He's not messing around. A bag of methamphetamine and $1,360 in cash. Bagenstos had 3 white pills she said were oxys, as well as a meth pipe.
Ooh, not a meth pipe.
No, she should have had that printed on there. Definitely not a meth pipe. Yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah. I wonder if they'll do that over at Cafe Press.
Oh, no.
You print on my meth pipe, definitely not a meth pipe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Fair question.
At a 1:15 a.m. vehicle search yielded more meth, 2 scales, drug paraphernalia, and baggies commonly used for selling. And investigators noted a brown bag that said on it, "Definitely not a bag full of drugs." I don't know where they got that bag. Maybe they sell them at head shops. Who knows?
I'm Googling it.
Please do. Yeah. Inside the definitely bag, cops found multiple packages of what an officer recognized to be methamphetamine, and which later tested positive for the drug. In total, police seized about a half pound of meth. Reynolds and Bagenstos were charged with an assortment of felony counts, including the possession of stolen vehicle and methamphetamine trafficking. The definitely not a bag full of drugs bag, now in the possession of the Portland Police Bureau, can be seen in the above evidence photo, which I showed Jess, but you can't see because it's audio, or you saw it if you're watching the video on darknessradioshow.com. But it was seized from Reynolds and Bag & Stows, which, by the way, Jess is looking up right now. But if you know where you can find the definitely not a bag full of drugs bag, drop me a line, tim@darknessradio.com.
I found it.
Did you find it?
I found the exact one.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. It's on a website called Look Human.
Is it on Look Human?
Yeah. Have you been on that website before? That's the one, right?
Let me look. It's pretty close. I mean, it's not quite the script. This is the script, but it's pretty close.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's the same color bag. But yeah, that looks like it's it. Yeah.
This one is not full of drugs yet.
No, not yet. No. They probably don't send them fully filled. I mean, you probably have to fill them.
You have to pay extra for that.
Yeah, you have to pay extra for that. Yeah. A lot extra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fill them full of whatever. That's for sure. That is for sure. Another drug story here for you. A 22-year-old woman in a pizza rage bust over a cold and uncut Domino's pizza pie. You may ask, how is this? Oh, wait, no, this isn't a drug story. I'm sorry. We're going on to food stories. You know what? Before we go on to food stories, Tom has an issue, I think, directly with me. He sent me, this is not a crime by any means, but the cops were.
Okay.
So, and I think this is an audio daily double. So we need to get our audio up here, so to speak. And then I'll be able to tell you exactly what the deal is with this deal. So we'll get our audio going here. Give me just a second. And I'll be able to tell you exactly what the situation is with this. So here's the deal. Tom, I think, heard about feeding the chipmunks. I think maybe Tom has heard a little too much about me feeding my chipmunks. Okay.
Oh, and he doesn't want to hear it anymore?
Well, it's not that Tom doesn't want to hear about me feeding my chipmunks. I think it's totally that he thinks that it's going to come to a bad end.
Oh, okay.
I think Tom is a little alarmed that maybe something bad is going to happen with me feeding the chipmunks. Here's
This story is a perfect example of why you shouldn't feed wildlife. Hundreds of hungry raccoons took over this Washington state home.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, no. Oh,
the woman who lives there told local deputies that she's been feeding a few random raccoons for decades. Well, word must have got out because recently hundreds have been showing up for a feast, and the problem got so bad she couldn't even get inside her home, so she had to call 911 for help.
Oh, no.
How do you walk that back, though? So, why do I think they're so cute, though?
They are really cute.
I know.
My boyfriend's family had a raccoon.
Like a pet one?
They had a pet, Cozy.
This girl has a lot.
Raised it from, babyhood.
No, a baby.
Okay, so Tom's worried that I think maybe if I keep feeding the chipmunks, hundreds are going to show up on my step.
Yeah.
No. Although, like I said, there is something that there is something now that's chewing up the seeds if I leave them out overnight and leaving pellets. And I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
You don't want hundreds of raccoons. They're kind of ornery.
I think it is a raccoon though that's showing up and chewing up.
Yeah.
So
my parents love to feed the critters in their backyard as well. And then we just sit and marvel at how adorable they all are. And they always have an obese chipmunk in their yard he's living his best life. He's getting all the good food that my dad puts out. But now they have a raccoon that has come and he's part of the show too. And we think he's adorable, but we're don't let the dogs out at night in the back without, being out there with them because that coon will rip them apart.
yeah. Well, or will the dog rip up the raccoon? I mean,
Well, maybe because one of the dogs is a Doberman, and I keep saying I think she could take that coon, and my mom's like, no, she's too sweet.
Yeah. See, I mean, even money on that deal, depending on what kind of dog you have. I mean,
yeah, hard to say.
Yeah, just saying. So, Yeah. So we get into the food section now with that
Yes.
little tidbit from Tom, who I think is worried that I'm going to be overrun by chipmunks. But no, Tom, we're good. I mean, because my doctor did ask me the other day, Dr. Schuster, he said, "So how many chipmunks do you have now?" He's very intrigued by my chipmunks. And
I know, I am too. It's so fun.
well, he asked me the other day, he said, "So are they down for bed yet for the year?" And I said, "No, not yet." I said, "In fact, not even close." Although they didn't come out today. It's cold and rainy out today. I have
Yeah.
lazy chipmunks. You know that? It stopped raining like early afternoon, but they're in for the day. They
Yeah.
think they expect garage service is what they expect. They expect me to bring things out to the garage, have a full smorgasbord out there for them. They aren't moving.
You spoiled them.
Oh, and then it's supposed to be cold, Jess, Sunday and Monday night. It's supposed to be like in the 30s. Oh, forget
Yeah.
about it. They aren't coming out. I think they want blankets. I think probably they're going to request blankets and pillows.
Sweaters.
Sweaters. Yep. Little chipmunk sweaters like Alvin and the Chipmunks. They're going to want those.
Mhm.
Yep. They're going to want the whole nine. They're probably going to want army cots, I'm sure. I don't know where you find a chipmunk-sized army cot.
I don't know. You just need to put like a Barbie dream house in your garage for them and like just deck it out.
Did I show you, by the way? You're gonna absolutely think I am a sucker. I'm a sap. I'm gonna show you this, and you're gonna look at me like it's time to send me to a psychiatrist.
All right, let's see.
I'm gonna show you this, and you're gonna have me committed. I got this for.
Who said I don't already think that, Tim?
Okay, I got this for Spud because
Okay.
she gets tired in the afternoon. I did purchase a bunk bed. You see the pretty pink bunk bed I got for her?
That's so sweet.
Well, that actually sits out on the porch.
Oh, I pray that you actually find Spud in that one day and you could take a picture for us because that would be the cutest thing ever.
I told her it sits across from her dish on the porch. So I said, you can take a nap. You can.
You're like, that's for you. Yeah.
It's got little butterfly pillows, little butterfly throw pillows,
Oh,
and it's got an actual pillow, and it's got little blankies on it too. Do you see the little blankies on it?
I do.
Got little
That is decked out.
put a little blankie on her if she does
Do
decide.
those drawers open up? She could put her little
No,
nuts in there.
those are just facades. I wish that
Oh,
I'd actually open up the drawers and put the peanuts in there for her. But
yeah. Just like fill it up with nuts.
yeah. So no, I'll put a peanut in the bed for her so she'll jump up in there. And
I need to see this actually on camera. You need a picture.
those mattresses are actually foam mattresses.
That's so fun. Like, how big is that?
It's huge. You could fit
Yeah.
like 5 chipmunks on a mattress.
Is it an American Girl doll bed?
No,
Like
no.
that kind of doll or?
No, it's like that big, yes.
Yeah,
But
it's that big.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got it at Target. Yeah. But
I
it's
love it.
like it fits an 18-inch doll on one mattress.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. And by the way, you can go to darknessradioshow.com and watch this video. And you can see how big the bed is.
I have a giant American Girl doll house. Like Bree's almost done with it. When she's done with it, I'm bringing it to you for your chipmunks.
Aw. Well, we made a nut hut out of a dollhouse.
Yes. Oh, that's so cute.
And the nut hut is where we keep the dishes, so they have
Yeah.
so that they're not attacked by predators. So they
You
have,
take such good care of your critters.
yeah, so they have covers so they don't get so predators can't swoop down and attack them while they're eating.
Sweet.
Yeah. So with that, now people are going to say we're getting you help, Tim. We have a good doctor. You actually bought a doll bed for a chipmunk to take naps.
Well, we had a bunny and he slept in an American Girl doll bed.
Oh,
He
see,
loved it. And he was potty trained, he was litter trained, and so we would just let him kind of run the house. And if you couldn't find Joey Snowball Sprinkles, he was always in the American Girl dream house within the garage, like just napping.
Yeah.
That's where he loved to be.
yeah. See So I'm not the only one.
No, I'm crazy with you.
Great. Wonderful.
If you're getting committed, I'm going to join you. And actually, that sounds lovely.
All right. Well, there you go.
We don't have to do any work. We just get to like
That's
chill out.
yeah. Well, then I'll take a picture and I'll show you if I get
Yeah.
to take a nap there. She
You
just kind
never
of
get judgment from me for being crazy, Tim.
she just kind of looked at it she was sitting there, gathering seeds,
Yeah.
looking at it, and I said, "Well, that's your new bed." Again, I sound crazy for even talking to her about it, but it's your new bed. You gonna try it out? She just kind of looked at me like, "My new what?" Yeah, like I have a bed. It's in my den. It's made out of leaves. I sleep in it. I don't know. I just got kind of a weird look from a chipmunk. Anywho, so we were talking about food.
Yes.
Yes, and feeding the wildlife and the critters. This woman, who's 22 years old, was in a pizza rage bust over a cold, uncut Domino's pizza pie. By the way, the only reason you should be raging about Domino's is the fact that it's a crappy pizza. That's the only reason you should get mad about Domino's.
We eat it a lot here, Tim.
Do you?
I have the app on my phone. They know what I like. It's for the kids. The kids love it.
Really?
Yeah, they love it. I don't know why.
Are you not in an area of town with a real pizza restaurant?
Oh, we have good pizza. And my husband and I are always like, can't we get, this other kind that's the good stuff. The Old Piper has good pizza. Like,
Old Piper's wonderful.
yeah, I love Old Piper pizza. And my
Right.
daughter's always like, oh, we want Domino's.
Domino's?
Like, well, it's cheap. So, all right.
I mean, you could put some ketchup on a tortilla for them too. It's the same thing. I mean, okay. All right. Well, let's get on to the story. Angry that her Domino's pizza was delivered cold and uncut, a Florida woman, of course, we're going to Florida, allegedly drove from her residence to the restaurant where she quarreled with an employee, flung the pizza, and damaged the store's telephone.
Oh my gosh, she was in a rage.
Yes, she was. That according to an arrest report. Guess what? It happened at 1:30 a.m.
Oh, she's probably intoxicated.
Probably. Police early Saturday arrested 22-year-old Ricky Hawley for criminal mischief, a misdemeanor, following the alleged pizza rage incident. After spending the night in jail, Ms. Hawley was released from custody on her own recognizance. A judge ordered the St. Petersburg residents to stay away from the Domino's outlet, which is 1.4 miles away from her home. So there will be no pickup. She won't be getting her own tip for going to pick up Domino's pizza. No. The arrest report does not indicate what, if any, pizza toppings Holly requested or if any stuffed cheesy bread was part of her order. By the way, this is a picture of Miss Holly. She's a good-looking lady right there.
Yeah, she's beautiful. She's so pretty. That looks like an AI.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's kind of perfect looking.
You could probably have a guy pick it up for her.
Yeah.
And then she could beat the hell out of him for not getting the right topping. Just saying.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Why don't you put it in a warmer bag for me? But there you go. So that's that story. Speaking of somebody who could get beat for not keeping something warm, I kid. This is a very, very. By the way, we're going to get into the not safe for work part of the. This story is a little gruesome. So this is going to be one of those not safe for work stories. Put the kids in the closet. Put the coworkers in the closet. This story is gruesome, folks. We're going to start it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can either put them in a closet or put them in a kettle because this story has to do with a daughter dismembering her mother's body and casting spells and cooking body parts.
Wow, that's a whole lot of crazy in one sentence.
That is, isn't it? Happy Halloween.
What's with these girls killing their moms?
I don't know. We go to Mount Olivet, Kentucky, where a woman is accused of dismembering her mother's body after multiple body parts were found in and around her home on Wednesday afternoon. They talk about old-fashioned home cooking, Jess, but who knew it had to do with your mother?
Yeah, you're not supposed to be cooking your mom. You're supposed to be cooking your mom's recipes.
Right. That's where she got that part of it wrong. Kentucky State Police said that troopers were called into a home in Mount Olivet just before 12:30 p.m. Wednesday after dispatchers received a call regarding a dead body. A man who had arrived at work on Trudy Fields' property said Trudy Fields did not answer the door when he knocked. I wouldn't either, especially if my mom were scattered all over the place. You don't want to let somebody in when mom's in disarray.
No, your house is a special kind of mess.
That's right. When he walked around to the back of the home to find her, he told dispatchers he found a pile of hair that appeared to belong to her, along with a
Ew.
blood-stained mattress and drag marks in the grass.
Ew, a pile of hair? That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mom can't come to the door. She's scattered all over the backyard. Ew. The man told dispatchers he followed the drag marks to the backyard where he found what he believed to be Fields' dismembered body lying in the grass.
man.
Yikes.
Yikes.
When troopers arrived, they found Fields' dismembered body lying in the grass near a bloodstained mattress. They also found a bloodstained stick and another mattress in the back porch. The man told state troopers that he had last seen Fields one day earlier when she accompanied him to their property gate. He said Fields and her daughters, 32-year-old Tori Lena Fields, were the only people at the home. The man also said that Tori Lena was casting spells on them and being confrontational. That, according to a police report obtained by WCPO 9 TV. The Kentucky State Police Special Response Team was called to the scene and a search warrant was obtained for the home. When they entered, KSP said Tori Lena refused to exit and had to be removed from the home following multiple uses of tear gas around 11 p.m. on Wednesday. Something tells me tear gas doesn't go with the bubbling cauldron in the home, Jess. I don't know.
I just have this vision of her when they come to the door and she's all like, buddy, bobbity, boo.
And they're like, have some of this. Boom.
It's quite the battle I'm seeing in my mind.
Right. Like something out of Hops and Wicked, like mixed together.
It's like a really weird combination.
Wicked is filmed on location.
I feel like we should write that. We should write that musical.
Yeah. Bad witch, what you gonna do? Yeah. Tori Lena appeared to have blood on her face, hands, and clothes, according to KSP. So
She didn't even clean up yet.
She was all up in it. She was, yeah. She was just, smeared all over.
Wow.
Full on frontal. Troopers searched the home and found multiple body parts cooked inside a stainless steel pot inside the oven.
Oh, that is so disgusting.
She wasn't serving mom for dinner. She was serving mom for dinner. One of the mattresses near Fields' body also had multiple body parts and organs on it. Oh, I have a disgusting picture to show you as well.
Are you serious? You have a picture of this? Oh, Tim.
I have her booking photo. Tori Lena Fields is charged with obstructing governmental operations, tampering with physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse. More charges possible pending the investigation. She's being held at the Bourbon County Detention Center, according to jail records. Now, Jess, this is what happens. Brace yourself. When they try to scrub you with the hose, but you've had too much blood on your face.
Oh, wow.
She is a permanent hue of orange.
She looked stained. And her hair looked stained.
Yeah.
Oh, and her, wow, that's wild.
She was bathing in her mother's blood. Isn't that disgusting?
Oh, I'm bothered.
Again, you can see the video on darknessradioshow.com. Icky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell you what, for those of you who don't see the video and want to just see the picture, we'll post the article in the description of this podcast so you can take a look for yourself.
Yikes. what goes on in, like, how do you snap to that point? That not only do you kill your mom, you dismember your mom, and that's bad enough, but then you, like, have her organs out and you're cooking her.
You
And what in what stage of insanity does that make sense to your brain?
one toke over the line, sweet Jesus. That's all I know.
Ugh,
Yeah.
scary.
Well, one thing she was going to need after all that cooking is a scented candle. And with that, a New Jersey man faces charges for calling 911 after someone lit one inside their house.
What a segue, Tim. You're such a pro.
I didn't go to broadcasting school for nothing, Jess.
I feel like I'm on a yo-yo right now.
I know, right? 34-year-old Alfredo Gonzalez of New Jersey is facing charges for misuse of a 911 emergency line by the Gutenberg Police Department after he called to complain that someone lit an indoor scented candle in his vicinity. He wouldn't be if he was in Kentucky. That's for sure.
I'd be like, light more, please.
That's right. Got a few more of those?
This place smells like burnt liver.
It's not actually a crime to light a candle, by the way. It is potentially full of toxic chemicals, depending on who you talk to. If that isn't unhinged enough, he also fabricated mental health concerns to urge the response further, according to the police.
So there's a lit candle and I'm crazy.
Yes. Yeah. So not only did he believe lighting the candle was a criminal offense, but also the person responsible for lighting the candle was in need of a mental health evaluation.
Oh, they were crazy. Okay.
They're playing with fire. They're crazy. They're playing with fire. And by the way, the scent is really killing me. So come on over.
It's a crime.
It's a crime. Yet in Kentucky, they're taking apart people and cooking them. So,
Yeah.
extremes. It's one extreme or the other, Jess.
That's what I'm saying. I have whiplash right now.
Gonzalez continued to abuse the emergency line by making repeated complaints regarding parking before he was ultimately arrested and charged with fourth-degree crimes of false public alarm and misuse of a 911 emergency line.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a dummy.
Well, that's the name of the show. It really sounds like this Gonzalez guy needs to chill out, maybe take a bath, light a few candles. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Have a glass of wine.
All right. We come to the karma part of our portion of our program. Kids, sometimes when you're an asshole, it bounces back at you. And that's why it's part of the not safe for work part of our program. Don't be an asshole, because it's coming right back at you.
That's just solid advice that we should give all children at a young age.
That's right. That's right. Our first story, there's only two of them today. The don't be an asshole, it's coming back at you. Starts in London. The headline is, he had it coming. White man learns the hard way after racist outburst targeting black riders on the subway comes right back at him. Are you ready for this, Jess?
Yeah.
A video showing the moment a white subway rider in London was knocked unconscious after going on a racist tirade against black passengers is getting some fresh attention online. The clip shows a man in a blue shirt and khaki shorts yelling, "This is my home and you're all going back. You know it as well."
Hey.
Pretty brazen.
Yikes.
Someone on the train asks the man where they will all return to which the man responds, "You know where you're going back."
Oh my.
It was at this point he probably should have shut up. As the back and forth continues, the video cuts to the moments the man begins swinging on handrails and repeatedly singing, "They're lesser than us," before telling the group of young black men on the train, "You're my pets."
What the heck?
Yes, what in the actual F, right?
Dang.
After the train stops, three black men begin to step off the train while staring the racist rider down. Suddenly, one of the three men punches the rider in the face, knocking him unconscious.
Now, that's an assault I can get behind.
That's karma, pretty much saying,
Yeah.
good morning. The video was recently posted to the r/abrupt chaos board on Reddit, drawing several hundred comments, but was originally recorded in 2020 and went viral right after it started circulating online. According to the Daily Mail, the writer, Billy Steele, turned himself into police after the incident, but never planned to press charges against the man who punched him. Steele reportedly worked for his wealthy family-owned construction firm at the time. He doesn't want the man who hit him to be punished, his mother told the outlet. He's getting help for his behavior.
That's good. I mean, on the bright side, he got what he deserved and maybe a little therapy.
Right. Steele has also reportedly incited multiple violent incidents before. Not his first time, Jess.
Why? Oh, man.
A former friend of his told Daily Mail, I believe he needs help for his mental health. I really haven't spoken to him from the turn of the year due to his behavior. Most commenters weren't surprised by the violence that occurred on the train after Steele launched into his outburst. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, someone wrote. By the way, that someone was Mike Tyson. Yeah.
Amazing.
While he had it coming and totally deserved it, this will unfortunately confirm in his head that he's right about his views, another person added. One Reddit user mentioned the video's age and another responded, but the message is evergreen. Chat shit, get banged. Was what the person said.
I want that on a shirt.
It should be a shirt. You know, talk shit, get banged. That should be, although that sounds like you're getting fucked. I mean, but you know, talk shit.
Either way.
Talk shit, get hit should be what it says.
Yes, I like that.
Talk shit, get hit. That should be the.
Get that in the merch store, Tim.
That's right. Okay, yeah. The Darkness Radio logo, talk shit, get hit. That'll be the first sweatshirt that comes out. The second story we have, Jess, that is part of karma. Oh, you should cover the puppy's ears for this one.
Oh.
Although the puppy may enjoy this one. This is karma if I've ever heard of it, Jess. You have the top German neo-Nazi in the nation just taking a stroll on Hitler's favorite mountain.
Okay.
On a nice sunny day. Out there on the mountain. Oh, it's a nice sunny day. I love the look on Hitler's favorite mountain. Look at the snow-capped mountain. It's so nice. And as he's out there taking the hike on the mountain, he plunges 200 feet to his death. Go figure, Jess.
Oh, goodbye. Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. 'Tis karma's way of saying, oops, the mountain is slick. You should have worn spiky shoes. A top German neo-Nazi plunged 200 feet to his death while hiking on what is believed to have been Hitler's favorite mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. Andreas M., all of 37 years old, from Freising, was considered to have been one of the leading neo-Nazis in Bavaria. He died on September 29th while climbing the Untersberg Mountain in an international 30-person group. The Berchtesgaden Land District Association of the Red Cross confirmed that. Probably giggling why they did, but they confirmed it nonetheless. The 1,972-meter high mountain was known to be Adolf Hitler's favorite view, with the Nazi dictator having his Berghof holiday home on the opposite Obersalzberg mountainside converted into his residence. But when the hiking group went to descend from the peak named Storrs House, Andreas M. slipped on a wet route and stumbled 200 feet through partly vertical rocky terrain down to the Donges Marterl, where he lay fatally injured on the path.
Yikes, that sounds like a terrible way to go.
Or is it?
Karma's a bitch.
It was Hitler's favorite mountain. I mean, maybe he laid there and went, "Oh, mein Führer, I come to join you." Two companions and two other hikers on the way up, a trainee doctor and a policewoman, immediately made an emergency call and attempted to rescue the 37-year-old by resuscitating him. Slowly, I might add. The crew of the rescue helicopter, Christoph 14, which had been alerted at the same time as the mountain rescue services in Bad Reichenhall and Teisendorf-Anger, lowered an emergency doctor to the patient using the rescue hoist after just a few minutes, but the doctor could only confirm the death of the young man. The helicopter then flew 3 mountain rescuers and 2 police mountain guides to the scene of the accident and flew the doctor back to the valley. Boy, this is a lot of effort. A lot of effort, Jess, to help out a neo-Nazi.
It is. They really want to save them.
I'm guessing, well, they say, all that's dead in Germany, but you could fool me by the amount of effort they put into this guy.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, I suppose you got to save everyone.
Yeah, true. Got to give that effort. 2 accompanying climbers were also brought back to the valley by rescue helicopter, and the crisis intervention team took care of the distressed group. Andreas was one of the top figures in the Bavarian Regional Association of the right-wing extremist party, the Third Way. He was treasurer and assessor of the Regional Association and the small neo-Nazi party. Andreas reportedly left behind a wife and child who was born in June, according to Merkur. Rumor has it that the child will salute at his funeral with his pacifier. I'll be like, Papa. Just saying.
Maybe he won't grow up with that influence in his life. So maybe that's the bright side.
It could be. You never know.
Maybe. Always looking for a bright side.
Calls for donation for the family and a memorial plaque on the mountain have been making the rounds in recent days, I guess. My guess is probably raised quite a bit of money.
Probably. I mean, he had family and friends who loved him, even though he had messed up ideas of life.
Believe it or not, 7,000 euros were raised on the page already.
Wow.
Another appeal for donation brought in 12,000 euros. Who says Nazism's dead?
Man.
Yeah. Well, let's cheer things up. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Our final story has to do with a mom who was told to take down her Halloween decorations because it looked too real.
Ooh, scary mom.
Right, it's the scary mom on the block. Do you have your Halloween decorations up already?
Well, we've got a few things, but not a lot. This is my busiest time of year. I'm sure it is for you too. I just don't even have time to think about it anymore. But when my kids were little, boy, we went all out.
I was cruising around Target yesterday looking at stuff, thinking, because it's Red Circle week. And there's a lot of stuff on sale.
Ooh, I'm going to have to get to Target.
Better do it today as we tape because it's the last day.
I did find a really cool, I think he's 9 foot tall skeleton, not the biggest ones that you've been seeing, but he's pretty big. And he has some automatronics to him, he does some stuff.
He's got a name too.
Does he?
Yeah, he talks and he's got a name. I don't remember what it is.
I want him.
Yeah. Yeah, they have
my husband. Couple $100. It seems like a good investment.
Right? Actually, it's $129. I looked at it.
Ooh.
Yeah. Not that I'm trying to advertise for Target or at all, but then they also have cheaper stuff too. Like they have the skeleton bride that you put on the door that's only $35.
Ooh, I'll get that.
Right. And it says stuff. It's like, ooh, you can never leave. Ooh, and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. I mean, they have a lot of good stuff that's reasonably priced there.
We should get that today and stick it in our room. I'm traveling this week. Leave that in there for my hubby.
I thought I was going to say to scare the hubby, but see, we're on the same wavelength. See? You'd be like, what happened to you, Jessica? No! And then you'd be like, oh, no, that wasn't me. See? We're thinking same wavelength here.
No, it's scary.
Oh, it's pretty cool. Okay, so the mom was forced to remove her body bag Halloween decorations after distressed neighbors complained they looked too real. Bunch of stick in the mud.
Yeah, lame.
Carolyn Ashley was stunned when a Liverpool council worker allegedly visited her home on September 24th. I like this woman. She started in September.
My kind of girl.
Right. And demanded she remove the offending decorations from the front of her house. The 41-year-old says she was visited by the council after a complaint from a neighbor who was offended by the display. Did she throw a Bible at her head too? After initially admitting she was baffled by the request as her kids aren't scared of the decorations. Right. The mom of two eventually took them down to avoid causing any further offense.
No, it's so hard. What do you do? I had a vision for my front yard when we moved into this house for Halloween. I wanted dolls. Just, like the Island of the Dolls, like that kind of stuff, just hanging from my tree and like my front porch, just everywhere. And then I saw the adorable little neighbor girl playing in the front yard across the street from us. And I was like, I can't do that to Charlie.
Oh, you should though.
Be scared.
Oh, that's perfect though.
I think it would be amazing. Just a bunch of dolls hanging in various stages of,
But you know what that means? No one teepees or eggs you on Halloween because they'd be like, that woman is freaky.
He's crazy.
Don't do that to dolls. What you gonna do to me?
That's
See?
right, kids.
Right. Carolyn said the council worker returned the following day to check the decorations had been taken down and requested that they be moved onto her property. It's the quickest the council has come up for anything, she said. I put them up. And then he was around the following day. Carolyn said her dilemma, or shared her dilemma to a local Facebook group asking members, are the body bags too much? But while most people praised her spooky display, others conceded that some may find it upsetting. Come on, body bags, please.
It's clever.
It is clever. Carolyn from Liverpool, Merseyside, said, I've always loved Halloween. I've been decorating my house for 6 years. I started getting a few bits and it just got bigger. The neighbor was really upset, obviously triggering something. I don't want to offend anyone. That wasn't the intention. It's just a Halloween decoration. So they're in my garage. It's the quickest the council has come out for anything. I put them up and then he was around the following day. So obviously it was more than just a neighbor. It was somebody who was offended. I took the stuff from the tree down and left the other stuff in the grass. And then the following day they came around to check to make sure that I'd taken it. I said, listen, I've got to go and pick the kids up from school. If you need it taken down, you have to do it yourself. He just took it all out and put it on my porch, which is fair enough. Oh, there you go.
Well, that neighbor sounds kind of lame.
Yeah, completely. So, Liverpool City Council confirmed that a complaint was received and that was acted upon. So they claim it wasn't anything that they did themselves. So, and by the way, this mom looks pretty young and hip.
Oh, she does. Yeah, she looks cool.
So,
and really, it's fake. And this is a good opportunity for people to teach their kids, the difference between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Decorations in our yard are just for fun.
That's right. Yeah. It's just fun stuff. That's all it is. So, and it's no different than Christmas decorations or anything like that. I mean,
yeah, somebody might be offended by your Christmas decorations. You gonna have to take those down?
That's right. So, I mean, there's other religions besides Christian in the world.
Really, Tim?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. That's what I keep telling my pharmacist who's Muslim.
I know.
Go figure.
There's all kinds of different stuff in the world. Live and let live.
Yeah. So, all right, kids. That does it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. By the way, Jess has 2 wonderful books out there with her co-author, Natalie Fowler. If you don't have them by now, shame on you. You can get them in a link in the description of this program today. Read them. I did. Just saying. And also, Jess, the link for the trip is up. It's in November up at the Palmer House.
2 rooms left, Tim. Almost sold out.
I know. I had to give up my room. I'm sleeping in the alley, evidently. I got a cot back there right in back of the kitchen. They're going to throw me scraps all weekend.
We have had such a full house before. I've had to sleep in the office.
Really?
My room.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll be in the backyard.
There's a couch in there.
I'll be in the back alley. So you better take one of the rooms, people. Just saying. So, but yeah, there's a discount code.
Yeah, Darkness 20 gets you 20% off. Get it while you can. We'd love to have you come. We're going to have the best time.
That's right. We're gonna have a good time up there. Get your not 1920s, not 2020s.
1920s. I know. I'm thinking I got to see how many girdles I need to wear to fit into my dress.
Me too.
How much do I have to cinch it in to get it over my bootay?
I have to get my girdles too to fit in my dress. So that'll be interesting.
You and I have like opposite problems right now. Yours is going to be too big. Mine's going to be too tight.
Oh.
We'll be fine.
That's the miracle of crack. Just saying. So, methamphetamine, it's a wonderful drug, Jess.
I know. They say it really does make you skinny. Don't mind the scabs and all the scratching at yourself. But
that's right. Ride the snake, baby. Woo! I'm kidding. Anyway, video joke. Yeah. So come on and join us at the Palmer House. If I remember where that's at. Oh, Sauk Center. That's right. Sauk Center. We're going to have a wonderful time, and it's a 1920s themed weekend. So we'll be investigating. We'll have a full weekend where I can't wait for art projects and stuff like that. I've never done that on investigation.
You're gonna love it. It's super fun. We've got some fun workshops planned.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that as well. But sign up because there's only a couple of rooms left. So sign up. I want to make sure we have a full house. So we'll be doing that. Let's see what's coming up. Oh yes. Oh, by the way, Fred Litwin's book. Get Fred Litwin's book. He was our guest today. Yeah, Fred Litwin's book. I'm just remembering random things here. I'm doing the random checklist thing here today.
I can see your brain. It's like a scroll's coming through your eyes.
I know. I'm
thinking of all the stuff.
Melting down here. No, it's one of those days today. So yes, our guest Fred Litwin. The link in the description of this program to his book is there about Jim Garrison and his prosecution of the JFK case. But the link is in the description for that. Let's see here. What else was I going to mention here, Jess? Oh, I can't tell you who's on Thursday. Can I?
Are you going to tease it a little bit?
Should I?
Yeah, that's always fun.
Okay. Let's see here. On Thursday's program. Oh, Jess, I kind of teased it last week, but I gave everybody an assignment to watch a certain program on the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
It's to do with monsters. Ooh, scary kids monsters, right? In fact, it has to do with Monster Files.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe a couple of people from that program on the show on Thursday.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. So go watch that program on Discovery. I believe, not sure if it's on Discovery Plus, the replay of the program, or Max, but check out either service and see if they are replaying that program there. So if not, catch it live. I believe it's Wednesday. Is it Wednesday night? I have to check to make sure. But yeah, Lost Monster Files. So
love it. That's going to be fun.
So there you go. That's Thursday. Big program.
I feel like that was more than a tease, Tim.
Okay, maybe a little. Well, you can't really tease that one. I mean, that's kind of a big one. I didn't tell you who.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I didn't tell you who. Some days I fail miserably at this thing. Just saying.
Oh, and you're always just wonderful, no matter what.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. So that'll do it for today. Tomorrow, Supernatural News. We get Supernatural News, so there you go. But thank you so much for listening, folks. We appreciate it. If you like what you hear, give us a kind review. Kind 5-star review. We appreciate it. In the meantime, oh, by the way, one last note before we leave you today. I've had some confused people say, what are you doing on YouTube? Why are all these shows appearing on YouTube? Well, there's some audio shows that are showing up on YouTube because we're adding to the podcast channel on YouTube. So Darkness Radio has a podcast channel on YouTube now. So we're appearing on the podcast channel. So if you start to see audio podcasts as well as the video podcast on YouTube, it's okay. Because I had a few people say, well, shouldn't this podcast be dated this on? We're just adding the archive to the podcast channel on YouTube. So that's all. We're just appearing in one more place. Taking over the world, one podcast channel at a time. That's all. So don't worry about it.
I love it.
So it's okay. It's okay. It's just one more venue we're appearing in. Don't worry about it. You see nothing. That's all. So if you go to YouTube for most of your stuff, you can see not only the audio, but you can get not only the video, but you can get the audio there too. So if that's where you happen to get all your stuff, then you can get it all there. So there you go.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Yeah. So because I had somebody go, wait a minute, why is this not dated? Because it was an old archive from September 10th. I said, why is this not dated October 9th? I said, because it came out September 10th. I'm just adding old archives. It's an honest mistake.
I'm just looking out for you. I love it.
Yeah. I said, no, just adding archives. That's all. More bang for your buck. More fun stuff. That's all. So there you go. Eventually, you'll be able to get archives on YouTube. So fun stuff, huh?
Wonderful. It's good news.
I'm just trying to work myself to an early grave. That's all.
We never sleep, do we, Tim?
No. What sleep? We need sleep. All right. So we're out of here. See you tomorrow. Supernatural news right here on Darkness Radio. Thank you for tuning in today for True Crime Tuesday.
To get more audio and video archives of True Crime Tuesday, please visit darknessradioshow.com. All archives of the show are totally free. Thank you for watching and have a great day.